we get the, well, yeah, he's got to start the YouTube and make sure everybody is into the,
Okay, we are live on YouTube and recording has started.
thank you, David.
You're welcome.
Okay, we return to open session. Announcement of action taken in closed session. The board unanimously, are we all there? The board unanimously approved the following positions. Custodian classified 8-hour day, 12 months district-wide transfer for Kimberly Koch. Indian Education Academic Support Coach 1 classified 8-hour day, 10 months district-wide transfer for Connie McKinnon. JV baseball coach stipend 2021 school year, Hoopa High, new hire Wesley Crawford. Yearbook advisor stipend 2020-21 school year, Hoopa High, new hire Gerald Soho. The board in a vote of 7-0 with all trustees in favor approved the partial reassignment to the classroom of employee numbers 1259 and 194. And that was all the action in closed session. Okay, public comment and communication on non-agenda items to include Indian policies and procedures. During this portion of the meeting, members of the public may address the board on matters not on the agenda if such matters are within the subject jurisdiction of the board. Time limits, generally 3 minutes per speaker, 20 minutes per subject, will be imposed by the board president. The board president may rule on the appropriateness of a topic. If the topic would be more suitably addressed at a later time, the president may indicate the time and place when it should be presented. The board shall not prohibit public criticism of its policies, procedures, programs, services, acts, or omissions as outlined in Government Code 54954.3. In addition, the board may not prohibit public criticism of district employees. Whenever a member of the public initiates specific complaints or charges against an employee, the board president shall inform the complainant that in order to protect the employee's rights to adequate notice before a hearing of such complaints and charges, and also to preserve the ability of the board to legally consider the complaints or charges in any subsequent evaluation of the employee, it is the policy of the board to hear such complaints or charges in closed session unless otherwise requested by the employee pursuant to Government Code 54957. The board president shall also encourage the complainant to file a complaint using the appropriate district complaint procedures. Do we have any comments on non-agenda items? And I believe Carrie, you had some.
Yes, we do.
Do you want me to put them on the screen as well?
That would be great.
You could go ahead and read
for
them.
the public to see.
Well, you're going to read them. We're all going to hear it.
Okay.
Okay, I don't need to see them. I wondered if the public needed to see them.
Go.
Okay. First item from Mike and Viviana Orcutt. Dear KTJUSD Board of Trustees, as per the recently released draft of an extended 2021-2022 school calendar, we fully support the calendar change to meet the educational needs and goals of students. In fact, a new calendar in coordination with local internet availability could be a positive game changer for the Klamath Trinity area students. The improved access to courses from school/home could lead to increased graduation rates, higher education, vocational program enrollment. Generally, the KTJUSD has been very accommodating to students who participate in ceremonial dances and activities. The internet will certainly provide remote access for students currently participating in traditional ceremonies. The extended calendar may even allow students to attend and observe ceremonies that otherwise are not provided with the opportunity. If the new calendar doesn't work, then change the calendar back. I would really like to see our students get caught up post-pandemic and more job opportunities created in our community. Thanks for the opportunity to comment. Best regards, Mike and Viviana Orcutt. And then there's a section that says coordinate with the Trinity Joint Unified School District to prioritize installations to help students who lack internet connectivity, low rates of graduation, and people in higher education. The next public comment is from Casey O'Neill. At this time, I would like to see the board ensure that classified employees have a religious leave policy in place before enacting a year-round school calendar. At this time, we are not given a guarantee to take the time off for all ceremonies along the river. I would also propose a subsidized fishing policy to uphold the rights to cultural practices among those who depend upon fishing as part of their self-subsistence harvest for the year. Thank you, Casey O'Neill. The next comment is from Delbert O'Neill. As a parent and community member, I do not support the discussion on year-round school. I understand the need to improve education opportunities, especially within pandemic. However, this is not the answer. The board needs to understand that there is a big difference between culture and religion. The calendar up for discussion is only a representation of our cultural participation. It does not include all of the ceremonies amping all of our tribes. At this time, I ask that no board members support this idea. The next comment is from Zoe Booth. Dear Superintendent and Board of Trustees, hello, my name is Zoe Booth. I am a senior at Hoopa Valley High School. I am writing this public comment to let you know how it is to be a high school senior in this pandemic. Since the beginning of this school year, I've watched as you guys make decisions based off of how you guys think it should be as the senior class vice president. I feel it is my need to speak on behalf of students attending any school in the Klamath Trinity Joint Unified School District. So please reread this comment as many times or listen carefully to what I'm saying. Because as a student in the high school, I feel as if the board doesn't listen to students more than they should. Many of the students have been waiting for the day where we get the okay to go back to school. Some mostly give up and got into the mindset that the board isn't going to let us go back and are not hearing us, so there's no point of waiting to have our school or senior year back. I myself have got to the point where I have no motivation to do any schoolwork and got no energy to do many things. It's hard wanting to succeed and maintaining good grades if I feel like I'm not capable of doing from home. If we are able to walk around the mall for a couple of hours, go to the store and gas station in the valley while there's a spike in cases, then I feel like we can go back to school. I hear from students, parents, staff members saying they wish we could go back to school. My grades are straight Fs right now with an A+ in homeroom. That should really tell you something about how much I'm caring about school right now. Just take a look at the grades at the high school and tell me if we should be still staying at home. I heard my very own principal, Mr. Cornelison, tell you about how there are more Fs than ever many months ago. If it wasn't for Miss McCorkle, Miss Kurtz, and Irma Matilton, I wouldn't even be caring about school right now. Thank you for your time and listening to this comment. Sincerely, Zoe Booth, Hoopa Valley High School senior. This next one is from Donna Wickard. As long as we are making the effort to reduce spreading of COVID-19 and keeping KT students, families, and staff safe, I would like to be able to work from home 10 hours a week. For nearly a year, I've been able to fulfill my obligations as a teacher through distance learning, as well as student and family support off campus. When we return to in-person, the majority of our time will still be spent to support a distance learning model. For 10 hours of my duty week, I would like to continue to offer those services from my home office, as families are accustomed to my flexible hours to support them throughout the day and evening. I have set up my home and I have excellent internet that allows me to remotely access my materials, my students, and KT families. I have adequate internet and have proven to be capable to fulfill office duty week with less time on campus. Less time on campus will result in less contact with KT families and staff. Some of my past successes with remote teaching have been through the daily contact our staff makes, and by noting that in many cases, I am seeing some growth. My remote hours proved to be as proactive as in-person hours. I believe that this is the best use of time during this unique situation. It will also allow more productivity for those who travel from the coast to fulfill their job duties. The next one is from Kim Stevens.
Okay, go ahead. How many do we have? How many more?
How many more?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. No, wait a minute. 5. We have 5 more.
Okay. Go.
Kim Stevens. I am willing to perform a 15-minute duty day on campus consistent with the CBA. However, my concern with the proposed district MOU language is in the suggestion of open-ended duties and at the daily discretion of an administrator. I understand that a duty is acceptable and warranted, but I don't feel that my exposure to possibly half the school population of Hoopa Elementary is in anyone's best interest if my assigned duty is with the egress of students. I would like district assurance that my ingress and egress duties are not to further expose my students or I to additional persons whom they wouldn't normally interact with. Furthermore, I want a consistent duty assignment timeframe to allow consistency and certainty for any future contact tracing. I would like to be certain of the assigned duty place where I will be on campus. It will help with establishing the much needed routine that makes a child's day more successful at school. As a kindergarten teacher and in light of the COVID pandemic, it behooves my school site to have my duty assignment to be inside my classroom. This ensures that students have somewhere to go immediately after exiting the bus and are in a safe environment with supervision where I can monitor and train them on the newly adopted safety protocols at school. I feel it prudent to mention that most students have visited their classroom a limited number of times, and this is a prime opportunity for myself as their first teacher at the big school to build a relationship with them and help them foster friendships safely within the classroom. I feel that a duty assignment within my classroom to meet and greet students daily is the best interest of the child. That is where my use of time will be more valuable to them. This would be allowed under our CBA, but not clearly defined in the proposed MOU language, which I am not in support of at this time. Respectfully, Kim Stevens.
I have a legal question. Are we to be talking about negotiation issues in public outside of the negotiation room? Is Carrie McNally
Carrie's not,
still-
no, she's not here. I think that it's okay to hear them. There's just no response. So
Yeah, no response, but these are issues that are in negotiations. And that's where personally, I think they should stay. But let's go ahead and read these.
Would you like me to finish?
Yes, go ahead and continue.
Okay. The next one is from Peter Engel. Dear esteemed board members, in effort to reduce spreading of COVID-19 and keeping KT students, families, and staff safe, I would like to be able to work from home 10 hours a week. For nearly a year, I have been able to fulfill nearly all my distance learning curriculum, as well as student and family support off campus. When we return to in-person, the majority of our time will still be spent to support a distance learning model. For 10 hours of my duty week, I would like to continue to offer those services from my home office as families are accustomed to my flexible hours to support them throughout the day and evening. I have set up my home to remotely access my materials, my students, and KT families. I have adequate internet and have proven to be capable to fulfill office duty week with less time on campus. Less time on campus will result in less contact with KT families and staff. Some of my past success with remote teaching can be seen through the goals that my students have met during distance learning. Additionally, my remote hours allow me more flexibility to meet my students at times that are convenient for their families. An additional concern is that in these unique times, only those with childcare needs are allowed to request working remotely. Care for elders and other family members with high risk conditions are not included. This doesn't seem fair and places administrators in an awkward position. Regarding ingress and egress duties, I am willing to perform a 15-minute duty day on campus consistent with the CBA. However, I am concerned with doing this because of public safety and COVID. I would like district assurance that my ingress and egress duties are not to further expose my students or I to additional persons whom they wouldn't normally interact with. Further, I want a consistent duty assignment and time frame. Further, I want a consistent duty assignment time frame and allow consistency and certainty for any future contact tracing. I would like to be certain of all the places where I will be on campus. Peter Engel. The next one is from Teresa Sear. Regarding the KTJUSD KTTA school year 2020 to 2021 hybrid learning MOU. I am in support of section 4.0. Employees may be permitted to work remotely for up to 10 hours of their work week during the distance learning component of hybrid learning. I have felt successful in my part in keeping school personnel and myself safe of COVID-19 in the event of a need to comply with district and CDC procedures. For nearly a year, I've been able to provide school communication and student support for distance learning, both from my classroom and from home as needed. I prefer to be in my classroom and I do make it a priority, but if there is a need, I also have been able to comply to district recommendations to work from home until the district deems it clear to come on campus. Since we have more unknowns for the future and how COVID-19 is mutating into variances, we should keep this option available in support of staff and student safety. My home has adequate internet and I can remotely access my school materials and have access to webinars and various training and research to keep myself informed and educated to continue being the best teacher I can be. Regarding the school year and hybrid learning MOU 3.11, I am in support of section 3.11. When practical and necessary to support the needs of the school site, staff will be assigned in the supervision of incoming and outgoing students, as in the current bargaining agreement that teachers should have scheduled times and locations and duties. I feel that if I were assigned a place and time to be, then I could better help to keep students COVID-19 safe from other students and areas that could be off limits. I would have students for a specific amount of time and I will need to be efficient with my time and specific school duties. Teresa Sear. The next one is from Kim Stevens again. This one is regarding access to home office for distance learning consistent with distant learning MOU. While I appreciate the district's offers of working offsite for up to 10 hours a week, the current proposed language that is to assist with childcare needs only seems prejudicial. It sends a message of inequity and penalization. I can only use the proposal if I have a child that needs childcare. This excludes myself because this doesn't apply to my current situation. My desire to work offsite up to 10 hours may not come from a necessity of needing child care, but rather a necessity of personal safety. To reduce the spread of COVID-19 and keep KT's students, families, and staff safe, I would like to be able to work from home 10 hours a week. For practically a year, I've been able to fulfill nearly all my distance learning curriculum, as well as student and family support off campus. When we return in person, much of our time will still be spent to support a distance learning model. For 10 hours of my duty week, I would like to continue to offer those services from my home office, as families are accustomed to my flexible hours to support them throughout the day and evening. I have adequate internet access and have proven to be capable of fulfilling office duties weekly with less time on campus. Less time on campus will result in less contact with KT families and staff. I respect and appreciate the district's attempt to assist staff with childcare needs, but I would like it to be applicable to all staff regardless, in a spirit of equity for all. Please eliminate the childcare language from the proposed MOU, and I am agreeable to the rest of the proposed language of up to 10 hours working remotely off campus. The last one is from Sherry Hicks. Below is the district language, is the district proposed language that has resulted in a standstill. 3.11, when practical and necessary to support the needs of the school site, staff will be assigned to assist in the supervision of incoming and outgoing students. 4.0, employees may be permitted to work remotely for up to 10 hours of their work week during the distance learning component of hybrid learning to assist the employee with childcare needs. If an employee desires to work remotely under this section, the employee must develop a plan with the school site principal. The employee shall prepare the written plan and present it to the school site principal. The school site principal retains the right to deny the request to work remotely under this section and may revoke the authorization to work remotely. All remote work plans, if approved, are temporary in nature and shall expire no later than June 30th, 2021. I think the phrase "to assist the employee with childcare needs" in item 4.0 should be deleted, because the reasons why one would request to work from home should be left to the employee and his or her administrators. Since the plan can be accepted or denied by the site administrator, the addition of this phrase is redundant and unfair to those of us who don't have childcare needs. Item 3.11 should have more detail as to the days / times of supervisorial role teachers may be asked to fill. I believe that being specific would alleviate confusion and ensure fairness in work distribution. However, leaving the wording as is could serve as a compromise to having the item 4.0 revised and as stated above. I believe HVHS site administrators are aware of our online class schedules and will take that into consideration when assigning additional ingress and egress duties to avoid conflicting activities. I do not know how well other sites work in regard to communication about online distance learning classes, which could create a conflicting work environment. Therefore, the document should be consistent for all certificated staff. I appreciate an opportunity to address the board as we continue to work together to meet the needs of our students in this unprecedented time. Respectfully, Sherry Hicks, HVHS English teacher.
That was all the public comments on non-agenda items.
Yes.
Do we have any public comments on agenda items?
Yes, we do. We have one on item 7A.
7.
On the learning plan? Okay, so we will read that when we get there. Okay, let's go to superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. So I submitted a written report. Any updates that I have really are in regards to the action items that are coming up with hybrid learning, but I'd be happy to answer any questions from any trustees about anything that came out in the written report. I'll start with that, I guess.
I have one question, is for the community in general. Are they able to see the report that you gave us in writing?
It's in the agenda online. So all of the documents are downloadable. I mean, I can go through it and just kind of read through it as well, but it is on the website when you go to get the agenda. And then each of the documents, including my report, are on that. Normally, we have it available for viewing at the board room as well. I don't
Okay.
think it was probably, usually I give an oral report, but I wanted to be able to capture some of these so I can go through the different areas. I'd be happy to do that.
So my concern is during this COVID time, trying to be transparent in what's going on, and I don't know how many people can actually go into the website. So it's something we need to address, look at, and have more input in on the future. So any board members want her to go over the report at this time?
The report she submitted with the packet or a different report?
Yes.
The same report. I mean, it's just sort of a style in terms of time, how much time you want to spend. I can read through it real quickly so that people that did not have an opportunity to read it, which is probably, I would imagine, most people. I mean, the board definitely reads it, but
yeah, we're trying to cut down the long hours of meetings, and written reports are always good so that we can go back, reread it, save them, versus just oral reports. We're going on our memory and our notes. And so we're trying to transition into all the reports being written, but I'm wondering maybe just the highlights of what's in the report.
Okay,
Sue,
if I have a couple of
Sue?
quick questions. Under facilities, it says there's a facilities ITech committee meeting on Thursday, April 8th at 5. I don't know who's on that committee. Or a couple of times it's been suggested that I be involved in facilities planning.
Yeah.
So if I'm expected to be there, I'd like to know where it is.
it's here. It's on Zoom, but I will invite you. Yes. So we just set that up with kind of the core planning group, which includes Shin Green, who we were talking about earlier, who did a presentation. So we were just trying to find a time when we have something to report back to the group. So I will include you in that first. Absolutely.
Okay, my other question is about the LCAP annual update. Is this what will serve as the basis for our new LCAP? Do we build from here? Because it looks like most of our expected outcomes were not met. I imagine at least some of them were impacted by the pandemic. They likely were developed before we were in the middle of the pandemic. But out of all of the ones that are here, like 6 were met and 14 were not met, and some didn't have data. And I'm just wondering, is there going to be a deep dive into this in developing the new LCAP, or how should we use this information?
Okay. Jen or Carrie, either one of you want to respond to that?
I would like to say that, yes, there is going to be a deep dive into this. This is the basis for us going forward for our new plan.
Okay.
And I'd like to add that you captured a lot of things that are definitely represented. The year was not finished, so this is looking at the 1920 school year. So there was the disruptions, I think, are ubiquitous. We're going to find just lots of places where there's holes in the data. And I think that what the board can do is use this as a tool to say, okay, here's some clear areas that we want to set some goals for and have some measurements for. And in addition with the stakeholder input, they work together. So I think it's just saying, here's what we tried in the past. Here's what the results were. So we can either decide we want to continue with some of the actions, for example, with some of the academic indicators. I mean, there's some that we absolutely, will keep moving forward with. So I think it is it's kind of one of the ingredients that we use for moving into the next 3-year plan.
Well, if we're going to take a deep dive, then I won't raise questions about specific aspects of it. But if we're not, then I have some specific questions. So how do you want to proceed?
I think that bringing them to the LCAP planning team would be best, and then I can report out those questions that
Okay,
we actually even meet tomorrow. So
then who's on that team?
that's myself, 2 administrators and 2 managers.
Okay,
Jen, this is Kadustra. Can you also include me on that facilities committee list?
Yes. Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay,
I'm
was there
just-
any highlights from your, other highlights from your report that you wanted to,
I do. I think that looking at the LCAP, I have that as a standing agenda item because even though it's due at the end of June, it's something that we work on throughout the year. I wanted to announce to the board that there was a request for special education training because it is really such an important part of the overall educational plan. So Craig Kimball made arrangements with Mindy Fatig, and I'm not sure if Heather's coming with that too, for doing a special study session on April 6th at 5 p.m. So it's not a time, it's a time where we're planning a presentation. You can ask questions about special education services in the district and then countywide, because we work in partnership with both HCOE and the Humboldt Del Norte SELPA. The other parts I have are leadership and administration. We've had ongoing classified management team building through the Studer group. That's in conjunction with some other school districts around the county and around the state. And it talks about its team building, and it's been really excellent. We have the MTSS district leadership team. We had a meeting last week, and we're continuing with the positive behavior plans, really focusing on supporting students when they come back to school. So the teams, we have a district level team, and then the site teams are really where kind of the rubber hits the road. That's where all the implementation is. And then one other thing I did want to point out was the district office staff in terms of administration. We have a changeover of our financial and personnel system. So in the interest,
go ahead,
in the
Jen.
interest of making sure that no data gets lost, everybody who does a financial or personnel report at the district office is having to do double. So we're having this overlapping period of time. And it's something that it's a slow rollout. It's something the entire county is shifting. The other really important thing to bring up is the idea of summer school. And we've had questions from families. We've had questions. I know it came up at one of the task force, IPP task force. What's the story with summer school? So that's a great question. What's the story with summer school? So Craig Kimball has already set up the summer ESY for students that have summer school, extended school year identified as a service in their IEPs. The question is, do we want to look at extending the learning opportunities to students that do not have that as a specific student service in their IEPs? Craig, feel free to chime in on any of that at any point, but we've had really preliminary discussions about, do we want to offer summer school to all students with IEPs that receive special ed services, or do we want to consider offering summer school to all students in the district? So I don't have an answer if that's
one
a
of the
question.
One of the benefits to offering summer school to all students who have IEPs is it will act as a service of compensatory time, since there's some litigation starting out on the coast for students who have experienced reduced service time due to the pandemic, distance learning. And so this would be a nice way to go ahead and show that we're doing our part and our best to make sure that every opportunity is afforded special ed students to make up shortened service minutes.
Right. And Jen, I've been reading some of the reports coming out of the state where they've passed or are passing more funding for summer school. When that filters down, we can look and see what it will afford. because I think personally, I think that all students should have the opportunity, being that we've had such a disruptive year. And so if the funding from the state comes down adequately enough then I think we should offer it to all students. So that's just kind of my thinking, and we can dive into it deeper when we get the figures from the state.
And I just have the questions about who would be interested, families, and then who would be interested in terms of staffing. You know, we have to have both parts of that equation. So that would be a next step.
Margot,
I just
quick-
wanted to add that the I just wanted to add that the Indian Policies and Procedures Task Force is recommending that the school district provide summer school for all students.
Okay,
Thank
Good.
you.
okay.
Okay,
Anything
that's all.
else on your report? We will move on then. Thank you. The next is our consent agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Laura Lee, this is Sue.
Yes.
I'd like to move the commercial warrants for January and February to the regular agenda because I have some questions about them.
You missed the first part of the meeting, didn't you, when we approved the agenda? And
Yes, I did.
yeah, and I think all of the questions that were filtered ahead of time to the superintendent, questions were all sent back out to answered to all board members. Did you get that email?
No, I didn't.
Okay, I will.
I can tell you what it was about, what my concerns were.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's do that right now.
Okay, my
I
concerns.
know it's out of kind of
Yeah,
odd
but
order.
just it might help you decide what to do here. My concerns were that we've paid over $80,000 in legal services fees in the last, well, since December. And I'm not sure what, we apparently have contracts with attorneys. I'm not sure what the specifics of those contracts were, whether we can expect every month's bills to be as high as they have been, whether there's an upper ceiling or, anything about those contracts. The other thing is there were some big bills paid as debt service that total almost the entire amount that our later detailed interim budget report says is the total annual debt service. So if
I
the
think
total,
the fastest way we can handle this maybe is to, Jen, do you have your email that you could just read to us
I can. Give me just a
that
moment.
you didn't get, and then we'll, I'm
Yes.
trying to streamline, but you have good questions and they.
Yeah, and they were great questions, and I sent out this email to all of you. Give me just a moment and I'll have it. And so, so Sue, some of the questions that you asked actually were asked by other trustees. So I'm replying to, do you want me to read all of it, Laura Lee, or just the parts that
Yes,
Sue asked about right now?
Just do all of it, yep.
Okay, so I'm replying to all regarding the questions about the board packet for the meeting. Thank you for your reading, your thorough reading and preparation. So the consent agenda, there were questions about some of the questions about the warrants. HSU, that was a final payment for the contract with Kenny Richards. Dell, there was a after-school program laptops. The EDI, LPP are auditor fees. The Bank of New York Mellon is the certificate of participation debt servicing. And the legal fees are prior to the invoices. We providing any more information, we have to have an opportunity to redact any confidential information.
Does the debt, do the two debt service payments, pretty much, is that it for the year? Or are there going to be more equally large payments? Because if there are,
So the certificate of participation is addressed as a multi-year commitment, and we are billed several times for each year. So it's not a monthly. They send us the, it's generally twice a year, but then there's the interest and the principal. So that's not a monthly bill.
okay, but they total almost the total amount that our later agenda item on the interim budget says is the whole annual debt service.
Mhm.
So one of those two things is, you know, they're inconsistent. We either pay 400,000 in annual debt service or we pay a much larger sum. And I'm seeing an inconsistency between what we're paying just in these 2 months and what we're saying in the interim report is the total annual debt service.
Okay.
I
One
can
of
raise
the,
that question then when we go over the interim budget.
Yeah, we can go over that question in the interim budget when it comes up. Okay. Was that all of the questions that
There
you
were
had?
questions about the consent agenda, not other questions about the consent agenda with some of the applications. And then I had questions about the second interim budget.
Okay. So we'll get to the, when we get to the first interim, we'll dive deeper into your question about the debt service.
Thank you.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
This is Carrie Waddy. I move we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
This is Martha McLaughlin. I second.
Okay. We will vote Carrie,
Yes.
Sue,
Aye.
KTJUSD,
Yes.
Lauralee, yes, Rob,
Yes.
Martha,
Aye.
Debbie is out of the room at the moment. Motion passes. We will move on to action items. And we have a public comment on action item 7A, hybrid learning plan.
Oh, yes. We do have a comment, a public comment on hybrid learning. This is from Leslie Soho, parent and KTJUSD LP. It is with great concern that I'd like to give a perspective that I don't see being addressed. Is in-person learning safer for kids / students than not? We need to address the issue of mental health and whether it's actually safer to have students in school. In a recent email from Angie Brown to the KTJUSD staff stating recent numbers of COVID and quarantine cases, the majority of which was stated are school-age children, teenagers. I have to ask, why do you think so many students are testing positive? I am assuming it's because they are hanging out, gathering, doing what young people do when not in school. I see it all over the communities. Lots of kids hanging out, playing, running around, unsupervised, and certainly not masked or socially distanced. Kids have been out of school with nowhere to go, no structure, no sports, and little supervision for a year. How long do you think kids can live in isolation? I know of no one, not even responsible adults working in our district, that are able to do this. Parents are overwhelmingly reporting their children are disengaged from learning, depressed, anxious, and see no point to distance learning. I recently spoke with an ER nurse who is so overwhelmed by the amount of teens and kids with mental health issues coming into the ER. The increased amount of child abuse has also dramatically increased. These issues way more heavier on our healthcare workers than COVID. So I ask you, wouldn't it be better to get these students back to school where all of the mitigations to control the spread of COVID are in place? In school, they have masks, 6-foot distance rule, barriers, and disinfectants. Wouldn't it be wise to give them structure, purpose, and a safe place to be with friends and to learn? Students need sports, friends, clubs, and positive interactions. I think it is foolish to think we are keeping students and the community safe by keeping them out of school. How many cases would have been prevented had they been in school learning? Instead, gathering anyway in an unsafe manner. Opening the schools to in-person learning is the answer. Let's get going. We're failing our students. Leslie Soho.
That we only had one public comment.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, the hybrid learning plan was approved by the board at the January meeting. The school district has been responsive to the local and county COVID data as guidance for implementing hybrid learning and distance learning. The superintendent will give a status report of the most current data. The Hoopa Valley Tribe Office of Emergency Services will give an informational update. The recommendation is to move into phase 2 of the hybrid learning plan. So we'll go to, I want to have discussion before we have the motion on this particular item. So we'll go to get the information and then we will make a motion and vote when we hear all the information. So Jen.
Well, thank you. As you can see, I did not put a date or any sort of contingency language here because of the need for the discussion. We thought we were heading toward a more, more of an opening, and we rolled back because of the local data. So I have a couple folks here, I think, that do need to contribute and have the comments, their comments heard in terms of the status. But today, I participated in a simulation of arriving to the high school so that we can have the infrastructure for receiving students really developed. There were a few recommendations that the health and safety team made, which the high school was very responsive, and they're going to practice with each school site over the next 2 weeks. So every school site is going to have, adults pretending to be kids so that the people who are managing the reception of students on campus can really get, as prepared as possible. So I feel like our infrastructure is strong. We we'll have to make adjustments as we notice any holes or small errors that, starting with our phase 2 with small groups allows us to have more students on campus, instruct them how to be on campus. So I would recommend that we really talk about what's holding us back from moving into the small pods. Of course, we want to allow team scheduling. So I'm going to pull up the most recent state data, and I didn't know if Laura Lee, if you wanted to ask Poppy to talk about, or Abe to talk about some of the local things. But today would be the day when we went from red, maintained the red, or went from red to purple. So I'm going to just check that because this is about the time of day when they post that. We're still in the red. So we have an allowance where we could be up we could be up and running in our phase 4 in terms of how the county is looking at things. Now, if we talk locally, I know there were some cases today.
So do we have someone from OES here to give us a report? I can't see the whole
Hi, Laura
screen.
Lee. This is Poppy. I'm here, and Abe is also here, the safety officer.
Good. Okay. Could you update the board on the current situation in the valley and what the tribe is recommending or what they are doing?
Yes, of course. Thank you for inviting us to speak. So there's a number of things going on in the community, a lot of different things that OES and the tribe and Canal Medical Center are really looking into. And I think it was Jennifer who just mentioned that the county is in the red tier. I believe they were going to move into the purple tier, but their plan, what they announced was that they were evaluating their plan moving forward. And that's kind of the state that OES is in right now. We're rewriting our alert level system because it no longer is a system that is going to fit the needs of the community moving forward. So we really feel strongly that we're at a different level now that the vaccine is here. We're still a little low on our numbers, but we're doing good compared to the rest of the state as far as how many people we vaccinated. We're currently at over 600 vaccines, but we have over 640 on hand, which we're doing a drive-through clinic on Thursday, and we're trying to get as many vaccines out as possible. We have that many doses of vaccines because we have had limited staff at Kamau, a shortage of staff. So we're trying to find ways to be able to get those vaccines out there in a faster manner. And so we've had some volunteer nurses that are coming in to assist with that. And so in the meantime, OES, well, I'm drafting the plan right now and really evaluating with programs like domestic violence, behavioral health, Kamau Medical Center, CPS, the court system, different agencies, and then taking some of your guys' data that you've accumulated through the last year and evaluating that to see what's the most reasonable approach at moving forward. Because we all know, like I believe it was Leslie Soho or somebody who just addressed in her letter some of the psychosocial issues that are going on in the community, and those are very negative impacts. And so we're at a point where we have to weigh out the difference between keeping the community in a lockdown state or opening it up to a level where we can create some normalcy and give those children and families some hope and in addressing those issues that were named previously. I don't want to rename all of the hurdles that people are going through in the community, but it's not only the community, it's nationally. So those are reasons for us taking a new approach because of the long-term impacts, mental impacts, that we don't want to create worse impacts, negative impacts in the long term. Our people, we look at statistics like how many elders have got COVID in the community, how many people have got COVID, the age range, and their resiliency to the virus. So fortunately, we've been really resilient, and we haven't had any deaths within the tribal community, the reservation, or the neighboring tribes, which is really good. But that doesn't mean that we can't have deaths. So, we still have to take precautions because a lot of people in the country have died. So as much as we want to just open the doors and move forward, it's not realistic because if somebody does die, that weight is on our shoulders as a management team. So we're really looking at the phase moving forward, and we've talked amongst each other. We talked with Jennifer and you, Laura Lee, the other day, and we're in full support of moving forward and trying to, move into phase 2 and eventually a new phase to incorporate more kids into the system because we feel it's the best approach right now. So what we've done with our managers is we've put everybody back to work. We are changing the new management system of COVID, and each manager is being enforced to create strict protection measures for each of their staff members. So, and I think that's the approach that we really want you guys to take, is a real aggressive approach at, making your employees feel like they are safe. And if it's a specific individual that needs different measures, then, work to mitigate those measures to make them feel comfortable. Because, even though I heard some discussion about childcare earlier, and the differences in treatment from those who have children or may have already raised their children, but it's a reality that there's been a drastic hardship on those parents or mothers who don't have childcare and have to work because there's nowhere for their kids to go. And that's a reality. So, those are one of those issues that you're going to have to try to modify or make some type of, mitigate that somehow to where those children are safe when moms do have to come back to work because maybe they don't have fathers at home. But there's all kinds of situations that we come across, and they're very unique. So one model doesn't fit across the board. So that's what we're trying to do, have managers be flexible with these different cases, different situations. Maybe they do have elders in the home. But one positive thing is that our goal was to get the elders vaccinated because they were the most vulnerable. And we've done that. We've offered that to all of those in the community. And so now we're open to 18 and over, and they can all receive their vaccines. And we're hoping by the end of April, we'll be able to offer the vaccine to all adults living on the reservation.
Okay, are there any questions for Poppy, or does Abe have anything to add?
This is Abraham. Thank you for allowing me some time to speak. So just to kind of touch on what Poppy was saying, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you. So Jennifer, before you started this section, you looked on the internet to check and see where we were at in the tier. So I've been following that very closely. We are still in a red tier. And even if Humboldt County had the numbers, the case rate did reflect yesterday numbers to have them go back into the purple tier. It was 8.2 per 100,000 residents. The public health officer for Humboldt County was not going to move into the purple tier. They were going to challenge it if the state was going to have them move into the purple tier. So what that shows us, like Poppy had mentioned, was the tier system, the alert level system that is in place does not going to work for us moving forward. And the reason being is the vaccine being offered to the community. So while Poppy said that we're readjusting the alert level system to work where we're at locally, because we're offering the vaccine to starting this next week, 18 and older, but Thursday in particular is open to all community residents 18 and over. So, we still realize that it's personal choice for that. And that's why we're taking a different approach solely because of vaccines being offered on how we're working with the departments like Poppy had mentioned. So, in the past, I've been able to review the safety plan that the district has put together. And I do realize that each safety plan is site specific. I think you guys have done a very good job on putting those together. Glad to see that you do have a safety team in place. I know that was something that we discussed in the past with our council. And, at any given time, if there's any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to me if I could be of any help to that team, as I've been on this team for a year now. With that, I think we all are in agreement that we need to see, the kids getting back on campus for their mental health, for the social aspect that they're missing. A lot of these, youth, they are going to be a year behind, and it's going to take some time to get them caught up. In whatever I can do, whatever the team can do to assist in that, we're here to support you guys. So if there are any questions, my email has been put out there multiple times, safety@hoopaoes.org. Cell phone 707-630-7351. And if there are any questions right now, please feel free to ask.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question. This is Carrie Waddy.
Yes.
Okay, Carrie.
I just wondered, and thank you for your support, Abe. I just wondered why it was going to be open to 18 and over instead of 16 and over.
Because the information that we've had to date was, as we looked at the different brackets when they offered the vaccine to, so it started 75 and older, 65 and older, people with underlying health conditions. And then as we moved down, that was just the information that was given to us, and that was the number that was decided from Kamau's side.
Carrie, this is Poppy. Let me just add, Abe. So the reason why it's 18 and over is because we use the Moderna, and Moderna is only 18 and older. We do not use Pfizer, and we're just getting a shipment of Johnson & Johnson, but there's some kind of moral and ethical issues with how that vaccine was made. So we're having discussions about how to reveal that information to the public.
Thank you.
The, Laura Lee, it's Sue.
Sue, okay, Sue.
The vaccines, the clinical trials for the vaccines did not include 16-year-olds. They're working on that now. And that's why they're saying 18 and older. They included those groups in the clinical trials. Since they released the vaccines and people have started using them, they're doing additional clinical trials. One of the questions that I had is, do we, you know, that the national news keeps saying that it's possible the entire population of the United States could be fully vaccinated, at least all the people that want to be vaccinated, within the next 2 months. And so I'm wondering, since my data shows 3 new cases in Hoopa today and a total of 37 active cases in Hoopa, including kids, students, let's see, 10 students in isolation, which means they're positive, and 14 more in quarantine, which means they've been in contact with somebody who's positive, and those are in the student age group. So, you know, we're going to be weighing and considering the risk now versus, you know, is it predictable that we can have our communities fully vaccinated within another month or two? You know,
This is Poppy. I'll comment on that. So Pfizer is 16 and older, Moderna is 18 and over. But in addition to that, our team monitors each one of these cases. And so a majority of these cases are broke out to households. So they're not like 42 different households. There's could be 5, 6, 7 or more in a household. And about half of these cases will be coming off and moving into the recovery status within a few days.
So,
okay, but we're still getting new cases daily.
Right, and we're always going to have cases that are unreported because these are only the cases that people are willing to come forward and test. So we currently go throughout all of our departments and do random testing as an OES team, and then we send those in weekly. And people, it's a voluntary test, so if people aren't willing to test, they don't have to. So you have to imagine as we move forward through this pandemic that many people refuse to test. Many people don't want to test, and they could potentially have COVID. But we manage those who are willing to do the right thing and try to control the spread so that those children and people who couldn't be vaccinated, like the elders, you know, it would protect them. It was one of our strategies to trying to keep a hold on these departments from having an outbreak. And so that's how we're monitoring it closely. But, you know, as we move forward, you have to realize, and we always tell everybody this, no matter what, you know, no matter what setting you're in, you have to pretend that everybody has COVID. You have to keep 6 feet or more away from people. And so that's why we're so strict on managers now, that because we've had some breakouts within departments because people were getting lax. They maybe were taking off their mask, or they were socializing around a desk. You know, those we're looking at, well, what do we do next? Do we start putting, you know, consequences to people who are caught violating the rules? You know, do we send them home with no pay for a couple of days if they're creating these risks for their employees? There's a lot of things we're looking at to monitor and manage as we go forward. But, you know, at some point, for the sake of the kids, we have to start really, as adults, enforcing and telling each other to follow the rules so that we stop the spread, because not everybody's going to comply.
Laura Lee, can I just, I wanted to just have a comment about what Poppy said about acting as if everybody has COVID. And the school settings are designed to treat as if everybody is active, contagious, could transmit. And that's why we have, again, the masks, the 6 feet, all of the safety, like none of those protocols have gone away. We just have been readying ourselves. So I think that that's a really important thing for people to remember, that the vaccination does not cancel out the need to really strictly adhere to the safety protocols. And we have, we have it lined up, and we will continue, that's what we want to make sure, that we're bringing kids in safely in small groups so that they can be trained. It's a new behavior for them to be able to be in a place that is very social, and where kids touch each other and hug and, are near each other, to have to make those differences. So we're looking forward to doing it in a slow rollout. I did also want to say that if anybody has questions, Angie Brown's on the call. She's our district nurse, and she could give.
What I intend is to have Angie maybe go over some of the protocols that we have in place and when children come to school. I do have another question for Abe or Poppy, and that is, of the students who are currently positive for COVID, are they confined to families? What are they? Give me some scenarios of are they in families, or are they scattered in various families, or
just like Poppy had mentioned a few minutes ago, what we're looking at is we got multi-generational households. So that's how we're having the younger kids and the middle-aged kids and some of the teenagers. So when a parent got positive, it's going to go mostly through that whole house. Granted, there are some that aren't going to get it. So that's how you're getting your students. Because we don't know, we know that some of the names, but that's how they're getting that, is because of the dynamics of the household. So there might be 6 or 7 positives in one household and 3 or 4 maybe over this way. And that's something, moving forward, even with the hybrid learning, that we're going to have to prepare for, because it's until there is that vaccination for the younger generation that's going to continue to happen moving forward. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yes, thank you. Are there other questions for Poppy or Abe?
I have a question. This is Carrie.
Okay.
When you asked your question, Laura Lee, I was thinking maybe you were asking if the cases were confined to 1 or 2 schools, or if they were spread all out amongst schools. That would be my question.
The information.
Okay,
Sorry, go ahead, Poppy.
Terry, you can add to this, Abe. So Hoopla is a very unique community as far as how we're managing COVID, because we're one of the very, few tribes who have a system in place like this in the entire country. And so what we do, instead of putting our lives in the hands of county and relying on their numbers, we created our own numbers. We created a system to give the community the option of coming forward and being willing to test if you have symptoms or you think you were exposed to somebody. So, we put these measures in place. Abe, why don't you give them the history on how we developed that? Maybe that'll help a little bit.
As far as how the numbers are getting reported to us, Poppy?
Right.
Okay, so there was confusion in the past as far as the numbers being reported like through the zip code. So there might be people that they'll test out town or other testing sites that do end up popping positive, and they live downriver because they get their mail through the 95546 zip code. So all of our numbers are reported to Dr. Smith, who then in turn will get those numbers to us, and then that's when we're updating those on our OES Facebook page. So there are multiple reporting sources that we get our numbers, but they all go through Dr. Smith, and then that information is in turn given to us. So, we have the Optum testing site, we have the ABMed site that the Kamal has utilized in the past. We have our own testing that we do, the surveillance testing that we do, the Kamal does that we do on a other weekly basis. So there's multiple sources that this information is coming from, but they all filter through Dr. Smith because she's our public health officer, and then that comes to us.
So how that works is we are tied to everybody who lives in a 95546 zip code. So we only get reported those numbers, and that zip code runs down to the Witchpeck area. So sometimes we get reported more cases in the 95546 zip code, but they actually are not on the reservation. So that's where some people have posted online some confusion about the numbers, and it's because there are positive cases in the Witchpeck area that we don't manage. And so we do not manage households in Orleans, in Witchpeck, or in Willow Creek. So even though their case numbers may be high in Willow Creek and they may have 200 positive cases right now, we don't know that for a fact because it's not pinpointed based on the zip code. So we have a really unique system, and a lot of times we get the finger pointed at us because we have cases, but that's because we reveal that information. We choose as a tribe to keep the public aware of what's going on in the community with COVID. So then we're able to bring these participants in willingly and say, let us manage you, let us keep you home, let us bring you everything you need so you can stay home comfortably and not have to go to the grocery store or to a public setting. And so they're assigned to home. And if they violate that, because they sign that order with the doctor and they recognize that they have COVID or have been exposed, and if they don't comply, then the police assist us in keeping them home. And I've had to go as far as getting court orders to keep people home who didn't comply. So we have a large system to manage, and we hope that people just willingly come forward and let us take care of them when they are sick, but it doesn't always work that way.
So again, real quick, we have how many current cases in Hoopa and how many are dropping off in a few days? So what will that leave us by like the end of the week with today's numbers?
37 active.
37 active, 212 overall and recovered. So I believe we're probably going to be in the, it's hard to say because we have them posted by dates, and they get assigned a time of when they can come out of quarantine or isolation. So it's a 2-week period minimum. So I think about 6 or 7 of those are going to be moving in within the next 2 days. I don't have the spreadsheet with me.
Okay. Okay, and of those 37, how many are school age? You know?
There's not many on that are school age right now. Probably about 7, would you say, Abe?
About that, between 7 and 10.
Laura Lee, I have some updated information on that, so I could share that whenever you guys are ready. This is Angie.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Okay, KTJUSD.
Is there a way that OES could get us the information or the data for the Willow Creek and the Orleans zip codes? Is that possible?
Angie may have that. Do you,
Okay.
Angie?
Okay.
I do have that. I have all of the school age children. I have names where they're located, and I have a spreadsheet of when they go into quarantine, when they're released, and if they're moved over from quarantine to isolation. So I do have all of that information when you're ready.
Let's segue right into that then.
Okay. I just want to say thank you to OES. I think they're doing a fabulous job of keeping the community informed and safe, and I appreciate their commitment. So I really want to thank them for being so transparent and all the work that they have done, because this is a difficult situation that we're in, and it's a lot of work, and they've done a really great job. So as we look at some of our local data, we currently have in Humboldt County 9 new cases today. As it was discussed earlier, we're in the red tier. You know, our adjusted case rate is 6.4% per 100,000. And, you know, a while back, they were talking about ICU bed capacity. And so the state's currently at 26.7 and Humboldt County's at 25%. So we're really looking good in the respect of the ICU capacity. And I think that things have changed for the positive due to the vaccines and a large portion of our county being vaccinated. They've given 31,803 vaccinations. And there's about 10,435 people, about 7.68% of our population that is fully vaccinated at this point. Hoopa had 3 new cases today, 37 active cases. And what it looks like for our district, I get information from the COVID California team, and we talk probably 3 times a day, and they're giving me information on our students, who is going into quarantine, who potentially is in isolation, and who's moving from quarantine to isolation, and when they are potentially released. And so we talk every day, and I get emails of when the students are released. Currently, we have about 14 students that are in quarantine, and we have about 10 students in isolation currently. So the difference between quarantine and isolation is if you are a positive case, and quarantine is if you're deemed a close contact of a positive case. So as Poppy and Abe were talking earlier, we have maybe a family member. We have some large families that have unfortunately tested positive for COVID. And potentially maybe one family member becomes positive. And then as time goes on, other members of the household become positive because, you know, they live together and it's passed through the living situation. So then we end up with these larger numbers of how many people we have positive in the community, because it's, you know, gone from maybe mom or dad to the children. And so we are seeing those numbers. In the next couple weeks, I do have students that are in isolation. The issue that we have with that situation I just described is that when mom or dad go into isolation because they're positive, if they continue living in the same household, according to county guidelines, when that mom or dad comes out of isolation, then the other members of the household start their quarantine. They have to remain in quarantine while mom and dad are in isolation, but then the children or whoever is in the household, they start their quarantine once that family member comes out. So it can be a long period of time that we have students in quarantine. I have some coming out on the 14th, and I have some coming out on the 18th, the 17th, the 21st, some on the 12th. We had some that came out today, which was nice. So over the next couple weeks, we do have students that will be coming out of quarantine. So that's
Are
the
these
date on
numbers
that.
district-wide, Angie?
They are district-wide. I have them labeled by school site. We have some through the high schools, some through Hoopa Elementary that have tested positive, some through Orleans Elementary. Captain John has had some. Trinity Valley has had just one case on my list. So it's been throughout the entire district that we've had positive cases. And my understanding is, and I haven't had time to investigate it, but Junction Elementary in Somes Bar is currently closed due to COVID. So some of our families that are at that school site may have high schoolers, or they interact with a lot of our students in Orleans. So I'm kind of waiting to see what that looks like. I don't get a lot of information from Siskiyou County. Most of my information comes from Humboldt County on a daily basis. So I need to look at that and see where we're going with those numbers and what they have going on at that school. I did want to, did anybody have any questions about the kids in quarantine or anything else that I spoke of so far?
No,
Okay.
I would like you to brief us on all of the protocols and what is in place in our district at the schools. Like, what's it going to look like? Who's taking temperatures or what's happening?
Okay. So what we do have in place is we have health and safety protocols in place for staff, students, parents, and guardians that come onto our site, as well as any other visitors. Those are updated with new guidance as it's received. I email the staff every Monday, those protocols just as a reminder. And we've put them on the Facebook pages, the KTJUSD and our Wellness Center Facebook page. And I've asked if the administrators can put them on the district websites. We also have had trainings with our staff. We've done some cleaning trainings, disinfecting with our MTO staff. We've done some integrated pest management training. Our MTO staff has done a mobilizer fogger training. We use those in the classrooms. We've done some district COVID trainings. We've done trainings with our screeners that are going to screen our children, some bloodborne pathogen trainings. And I've sent out a PowerPoint on the vaccine so people can make an informed decision, and a return to work safely training. We've done some mock drills. Those started today at the high school. Missy did a great job of putting that together, Missy Ammon, and her staff, great. They brought the buses in and we did some mock drills at the high school. So what that looks like is every student who will get on the bus will have their parent accompany them to the bus stop, and they will be screened before they even get on our buses. They will be asked a symptoms review, as well as questions like if they've been in contact with someone who has COVID or been diagnosed. They will take a shot of hand sanitizer as they come on the bus, and they will get their temperature taken. Missy has specific spots on the bus for kids to sit, and she could probably talk about her protocols on the bus a little bit better than I can for sure. Once they arrive at campus, they have a wristband, a paper wristband that's put on the child at the bus stop if they pass their screening. So as they come onto campus, they will be displaying their wristband to an adult on campus, and then they can pass through the gates to the school. That ensures that they've had a screening and passed. Those parents who will be transporting their students to school rather than the bus will be met in the parking lots with our screening tents. They will drive up to the screening tent. Same thing, before the child gets out of the car, they will be asked screening questions. Once they pass those screening questions, the child will exit the vehicle. We have staff there that will be taking temperatures and giving them a hand sanitizer squirt, and then they will receive a wristband as well, and they will be admitted to the classrooms in that respect. We have isolation rooms on each of the campus. If students become ill on campus, they will be taken to the isolation room, and the parents will be expected to pick them up within a 20-minute period. Any room that a child or a staff member has visited, if they become COVID positive, our janitorial staff will go ahead and set off a fogger in that classroom or the areas that they visited. And then our filtration systems, our HEPA filters, will be changed after that fogger goes off. That will be changed, and the room will be thoroughly cleaned before anybody is admitted back into those areas. HCOE has sent out guidance on scenarios as to when we would close a classroom or the school according to 5 different scenarios they have, and we will be following the guidance from HCOE that was created with public health for schools. And moving forward with that, we have protective equipment, personal protective equipment on campus. We have face masks for students and for adults. We have gloves, we have hand sanitizer, protective gowns. We have plexiglass shields in front of each of the teachers' desks and workspace. And we also have student desk shields. We have thermometers for taking temperatures, and all of the classrooms have been equipped with a hand sanitizing station as the students will come in the door. They have face masks if a student needs to change out a face mask, or if they have one that's not appropriate when they come to school. We have policies. that our criteria when a student is ill, when they can return to school or work. We have a plan for investigating and responding to COVID-19 cases. I have daily consultation with public health. I consult with Dr. Smith of Kamau Medical Center, who is Hoopa Tribe's public health officer on a regular basis. As Jen had stated earlier, she's been consulting with Hoopa Tribal OES, and we have a system in place for contact tracing. So all of these students that I have on my list, I make sure that the administrator and the school is aware that particular students are not allowed on campus at this time. We don't give a reason and for that, just that these students cannot be allowed on campus until I notify them further that they are then allowed on campus. So that will help the administrators and the secretaries know who's supposed to be on campus and who is not supposed to be on campus. We also have the ability to do PCR testing for employees out of the Wellness Center. This will start next week. And we hope to be able to test 1/3 of our staff weekly and rotate that through. Some information that I learned today is that if an employee has had the vaccine and they're fully vaccinated 2 weeks out of receiving their second dose, that they do not have to test on a regular basis, only if they have symptoms. So that's guidance that has come out. Also, if a staff member is fully vaccinated and they are deemed a close contact of a positive case, they do not have to quarantine. They can come back to work. So those are guidance from California Department of Public Health and CDC. So those are new guidances that have come out. We will also have the ability to do rapid tests on student athletes and coaches. I am in the process of signing our district up for that. We are waiting to receive our test kits. So we will have the ability to test our student athletes and coaches, which will be a requirement if we do go back into play. Our district has a facilities COVID checklist in place, and it's a ready preparedness checklist. And the Health and Safety Advisory Team has done 2 visits to sites to evaluate their readiness to reopen. And most of our campuses are ready to go. There is some signage at a couple campuses that need to be put up, but they've done a really good job. All the administrators and the sites have done a really good job of preparing their facilities. We've also done a classroom modification list, and that's gone out to all the teachers on how they can set their classrooms up to meet that 6-foot requirement distance for the safety of our kids. We've also done a COVID prevention plan, and that's the CPP, and that's a Cal OSHA plan for our employees. And that has been sent to the county for approval. We had to have that plan on our district website for 5 days before we reopened. And that has been on our website since the 12th of February. And we have also sent that plan off to the California Department of Public Health, which we had to do. Each school site has done a school site specific plan, and those plans have all been completed, and most of the schools have those plans on their websites. So that is what we currently have.
Angie?
What's that?
For you.
Yes.
What percentage or of our employees have been vaccinated?
So I've asked employees to notify me if they have had the vaccine, the first and the second, and not all employees, I think, have notified me. It's a voluntary notification, but of those who have notified me, we have 66 employees who have had the first dose, and 38 of those have had their second dose. I don't think this is a clear representation of how many staff members have had their vaccine, because I think far more have had the vaccine, just have not reported that out to me.
Okay, so have any employees who wanted a vaccine and have not had one, have they come to you for that?
There has been a few that have reached out to me. I still have less than a handful who have reached out to me that still have not received the vaccine. So there are a few who have not received it. Superintendent Glick has sent out notifications when she receives them from HCOE when vaccine clinics are available. And also Kamau has been really good about getting our staff in as well. So the clinics are available. It's just, they give us very short notification from the county when it's open. Our staff have to register, and sometimes the staff may have had other prior commitments that they couldn't make that short of notice. So we're hoping that we can get more and more vaccinated. And I know Kamau is opening up a vaccination clinic for all people who live on the reservation, 18 and older. So I'm hoping some of our employees could take advantage of that as well.
Okay. Any other board members have questions for either OES or Angie?
I don't have any questions. I just have a statement. This is Carrie.
Okay, Carrie.
I just have a statement. And I just want to say thank you to OES and Angie. That's a mountain of work that you have done, and we really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Anybody,
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions of them?
Just a big thank you for the update.
Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. Is the board ready to make a motion on this, or you need more discussion? And the what we were looking at is recommendation to move into phase 2 of the hybrid learning plan. That doesn't have a time frame, but I know I have been following the various postings on Facebook. I have been hearing from a number of people that students are suffering, they're giving up. A lot of them are just melting into the couch, and parents can't get them to do anything because they are getting so depressed. So that part of it really concerns me. And so anyway, anyone in.
This is Carrie Waddy.
Okay, Carrie.
This is Carrie Waddy. I would like to make a motion that we move into phase 2 of the hybrid learning plan.
Can I ask a question before you make the motion?
Go ahead, ask a question.
Can I ask Poppy and Angie to clarify if their recommendation is that we do move into phase 2?
Sure.
Hi, can you hear me? This is Poppy.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, OES did have this discussion, and we sat down and we weighed out all of the variables and had no opposition to the plan to move forward.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And is that also the health and safety team's recommendation?
That's Angie. Can you?
Yes, just when, sorry, I think my alarm's going off in the building, so I had to go check. I heard ding. So I have been on the fence with this, and our primary goal since this started last March is the safety of our students and our staff and our community. But as Laura Lee had stated, I am really concerned about the mental health of our students. I'm hearing over and over, just spoke to a parent today that was just distraught over their child. I think that our kids are gathering, and they're gathering and potentially not doing great behaviors, and they need that structure of school. And so I want to approach this in a cautious way, and I think we're better off moving slowly into this phased approach that we have, rather than just reopening school. We do have all the safety precautions in place at school, and I think that we can create a safe environment for our kids. So I am open to moving towards having more kids on campus, and we have the safety measures in place, and I think that our kids do need to be back in school.
And
So you are in support of moving into phase 2.
I'm in support of the board approving that we can move into phase 2 when the health and safety team feels that the data supports that. So I feel that we are monitoring the data closely enough that we can make that decision to move into phase 2 to the pods, because we are looking at the data. So it doesn't mean if you approve phase 2 tonight, like Superintendent Glick said, there's no date on that. And so that doesn't mean we would move into the pods tomorrow. It means that we would have permission from the board to make that decision when we felt it was appropriate. Does that answer?
It does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Josie, this is Poppy. I would just add to that too. From my experience of going through the ALS system and opening businesses to a certain level where they can operate and serve the community, this plan with the school, I would imagine, would be a plan similar to that, because it's not really set in stone, because you're moving into this new trial and you're going to try something out, and you always have to have a plan in place to revert. You know, you may have to pull back at times like we have, and then get to a place where the safety is addressed, and then you can move forward again. So it's not going to be, you're moving into this and everything is going to be perfect. It needs to be evaluated constantly. And then as CDC has changes, the health officers have changes, you know, you're going to have to make adjustments as you go forward. And then once you get to the level where you open the door for even more kids, you know, you may want to do self-testing and put other operations in place. So don't feel like this is something that you're making a decision and you can't go backwards, because you may have to.
And Poppy, I think that responsiveness is exactly what we've been focused on, because we had moved into hybrid learning, and then all of a sudden with, you know, and in response to the spike, we went back to distance learning. So it may be one step forward or 2 steps forward and then having to pause.
Okay, I have another question for Angie. You said we do have, or we will have, the ability to do testing ourselves.
We will have the ability to do testing on our staff and our student athletes. So we had not.
When will we be ready for that?
The staff we will be doing next week, and so I'll be putting out an email to that. We do have the test kits here in the Wellness Center. We're just waiting for a few more things to be put in place before we do it. With the athletes, what I'm being told is the Bionex. I was given information on that. I took the trainings over the weekend and registered, and I think it takes about 2 weeks for those kits to arrive at our site. So within the next 2 weeks, we will be able to test the coaches and the student athletes with a rapid test.
That's
Angie, Laura, if I could just add, Angie, that might be something we want to follow and meet with our medical team, because we do the self-testing also. But one of the problems we run into is overwhelming the lab system. And so what happens when this occurs is we oftentimes will not receive our test results back for a week or two. And sometimes those positive cases have already moved out of being positive. So we should structure that process, because we kind of conduct it on a rotation system right now, so we don't consume that laboratory where they're not able to process. And so we should evaluate who is running our results.
So I've had communications with Dr. Smith. I talked to her this morning about 7 o'clock. That's our time that we meet. And we are not using the local lab for the testing of our employees. We're going through a lab that's called Valencia, and we're doing that in coordination with Humboldt County Office of Ed. So what happens is we do the samples here, we take the samples, we get all of our supplies from them, and then we have a transporter that takes our samples to HCOE. They have a courier who takes the samples to Hayward, and then they get on a train and they go to the Valencia lab. So it's completely independent from the Humboldt County lab or the lab core that they are using. And it's set up through Humboldt County Office of Ed. Now, the other testing of the athletes and the coaches will be a rapid test. The first test we do with the staff is a PCR test. The rapid test that we do with athletes, the county is deciding to go that route because we have to prove that our athletes are negative before competition. And so the PCR test would potentially not get back in time for us to be able to do that. So what the county is going with is this Bionex system where they will give us the rapid test and we will do rapid test on them.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, because our PCR can take somewhere from 4 to 8 days sometimes.
Yeah, it's a process for sure. And in cases where we have spikes, that's even lengthier because we are, testing so many people. So that was not a route we could use for our athletes because we do have to have those test results back in order for them to be able to participate in competition.
What is the turnaround time for going to Valencia?
Valencia is going to be similar to OptumServe. It's going to probably be about 72 hours in that time frame. So it could take anywhere from 2 to 4 days for them to come back, depending on their, how many tests they have running. But 72 hours is what they promote. And those test results will not come back to me at the Wellness Center. They will go directly to the employee. It gets emailed just like OptumServe directly to the employee. And then if we do have positive cases that come out of our testing, Valencia Lab is required to send that to Humboldt County. And so they will send it to Humboldt County Public Health, will be notified, and then their contact tracers will take over from there.
Thank you.
So any other questions, board members? Okay, Carrie, you were moving into a motion. I have one other question, and that is I have seen that the HDNIA has put out a schedule for football and for another sport. I can't remember what it is, but football is the one I was thinking of. And one of those games is supposed to be scheduled for this Saturday, and our boys are not able to participate if we are still closed. If we move into the hybrid phase 2, which is not mandatory for all students, but it's optional for parents of whether they want to send their kids to school with the pods or not. Is that, if we move into hybrid 2, does that allow our athletes to participate? Anybody have an
That's a great
answer?
question, Craig. I'd like.
Yeah, we were actually talking about that today, Douglas, Augie, and myself. So we're looking into that, Laura Lee. I can't answer to that right now because we're kind of working with the county on that and the league. but I can give you a response to that tomorrow. We're actually looking in that this afternoon before the board meeting. So I think it's going to be kind of our district, the guidelines that we set forth. I think if they're engaged, they're distance learning, if they're going to participate on campus, we have to decide if we're going to honor that distance learning for the participation in sports. Do they have to be necessarily on campus? I think that's going to be a decision we're going to have to make as a district, but we were also talking about that today at the high school and then consultation with the rest of the league. So I can't answer that at this specific time, but I can definitely finish looking into it and we can have an answer for that by tomorrow into the week at the latest.
But are the schools on the coast who are participating?
They are.
Are they doing? They're on hybrid?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it varies, but yeah, they're different stages, but they are participating in sports, but most of them have moved back into in-person in some form or another.
I think some are further along with the cohorts. So if we can offer, doing the small pods, depending on who shows up, is not technically open. Open is really open and letting kids on campus quite a bit more. But if we can afford each student in each grade, at least when we start with the 11th and 12th, if all of those kids can get a chance to come to campus once a week, then we can, kind of consider it to be open. But the definition for open is officially is much more presence of students on campus. Like our phase 4 would be like an open, but I think that with them, since we're heading that direction, I think we could as Craig was saying, we as a district could say that's not enough. We're not quite ready, but I don't think we would be restricted from the league's point of view.
Would phase 1 qualify? Let the athletes play?
Well, it's not really open because you might not see a student every week. We were saying that we were asking teachers to see students. The definition is at least every other week for all students that want to, and every week for students with special needs.
And our first game is on it's March 19th. I just verified. So we have a little bit of time out, and I think if our numbers stay, we start moving into the
so it's next weekend, not this weekend. Okay.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, and then Laura Lee also, according to Augie, Valdez, he said the sports that are scheduled to start in April, and correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, on this, is volleyball, girls basketball, boys basketball, and wrestling. It looks like those sports, according to Augie, are supposed to start in April.
But we have football immediately. It's going now.
And he's telling me we have about 43 players and 5 coaches that, he sent that data out for the testing capacity because I was asking him, what we were looking at.
Okay, so board, are we ready? Carrie, you were making a move to make a motion. Are you here, Carrie?
She is. She's muted.
Hello, Carrie.
Mute. Okay. Yes, I would like to make the motion once again. I would like to make a motion to move into phase 2 of the hybrid learning plan.
Is there a second?
This is Martha, and I second.
Okay. Any further discussion, or shall we go into a vote?
I have discussion. So do we have parameters for when that would happen? Like when the data say what, or we don't have a time frame for that movement?
Do you want me to, this is Carrie, do you want me to change my motion to, I would like to make a motion to move into phase 2 of the hybrid learning plan when we get the notification from OES and our health and safety team that it's a go.
Yes. Good. Yes.
I think OES what I've conversations, they don't really want to, they want us to make the decision. So I think that they gave us the go. And so I would recommend restricting it to when the Health and Safety Advisory Team.
Do you want me to restate my motion once again?
Please.
Okay, this is Carrie Waddy. I would like to make a recommendation to move into phase 2 of the hybrid learning plan when we get notification from our health and safety team that it's a go.
Okay,
Would you
this
like
is
to second
Martha.
that, Martha?
Martha, do you agree with that as a second?
This is Martha. I second that.
Okay, any further discussion?
Yes. The actual written phase 2 has a few statements that I think are a little ambiguous. One is, will the small learning pods be the same for the duration? In other words, we're not going to change the composition of a pod from 1 week to the next, are we? Once they're assigned to a small
Right.
learning pod, that will
They would be a
their
stable, they would be a stable group.
Okay. Then this says families will provide the transportation and they may be required to remain on campus during the appointment. Have we provided someplace for them to stay? Are we going to set up a coffee service and what kind of a room are they going to stay in, or are they expected to sit in their cars or what?
That's possible. I think that if a teacher is deciding I'm going to do a 15-minute introduction just to get kids on campus for starters, then we would say that families would stay in vehicles. So I think it's, because this is for some of them, the first introduction. We're expecting that's not going to be widespread. Yeah, but
This says for the duration. This says for the duration of the appointment. If they're meeting for 60 minutes, are we asking parents to sit in their cars for 60 minutes?
Jen, can I?
Yeah, I'm yes, and I'm thinking that this is for to make sure that kids are being picked up on time, and I think it's the may be required is the really there. It's probably not, but go ahead, Angie. But I think it's that I think it was making sure that kids were not on campus for longer. So when teachers were done with their appointments, they definitely had a way to say, we need you here on time to pick up your children. But Angie, do you have another addition to that?
I think that when we originally set forth those parameters, it was when we were doing one-on-one appointments, and those one-on-one appointments were only for about a half an hour. And so we were requiring families to stay on campus with their children because the appointment time was such a short period of time. But once we move into the cohorts, I believe they're going to be more of a 2-hour time block once we get up and running. Is that correct, Jen?
Well, I'm glad Sue's bringing this up because the language in hybrid, I'm looking at phase 2, and I think because it was written so long ago, we may want to have some changes to it. And I think that was written for these shorter appointments. And then it says the learning pods will meet with the teacher for up to 60 minutes each week. And that sounds like we are not going to allow teachers to meet for longer than 60 minutes. So I'm wondering, that again was, when did we write that, in December? So,
I just think that, I don't know how that's going to work. Like downriver, some students, it's going to take their parents half an hour, 45 minutes just to get them to the school. And then what, they're going to just barely get home and then have to turn around and go back and get them again? I mean, I don't understand why they can't do the bus system.
so this is like the predecessor to the bus. This is kind of the warm up to the bus. So
I know a lot of parents that don't even have vehicles to transport. They depend on the public transit system.
I see also in this phase 2, under the second bullet, the last thing is on-campus cohort instruction for phases. 2 and 3 in preparation for. And I think one of the things that is fouling this up is that when we approved this, we added distance learning as phase 1.
Yeah.
And everything got bumped forward.
So that's noted. That should say 3 and 4. Yeah, I can definitely correct
Yes.
that.
Well, this is the time if we want to make adjustments to this before we pass the motion. Otherwise, we're stuck with what's on the page.
I mean, I feel like there may be some frustration if a teacher would like to meet with their group for more than 60 minutes, that is limiting. I don't think we should require that. Original thought was small groups for short periods of time. But if a teacher feels like it is in the best interest of their students to allow them to be there for longer, 60 minutes, that would definitely be a recommendation to lift that ceiling. So we could say approximately 60 minutes.
Well,
But my question was, what are we going to do with the parents? We're requiring them to bring the students and stay there for the duration of the student's appointment. Are we going to tell them you have to stay in your car, or are we going to offer them some sort of accommodation?
Well, I don't think I think that, yeah, that it is the may be required. And as Angie said, we can have that discussion. I think each school site is going to be different. A parent that drives 45 minutes to bring their kid to school is probably going to want to stay. And somebody who's around the corner is going to want to go home. So I think that would be good to look at that language, but I don't think that this means that parents have to stay on campus. Jacqueline, I can see you have something. We can't hear you though.
Hey, Jacqueline?
So we want to address the transportation and parents staying on campus. And then I would like to just ask the board to consider any change. I have the notes for changing what Laura Lee pointed out. And then I just wanted to look at the second bullet with learning pods for up to 60 minutes a week. I feel like the teachers and their administrators should really be given more latitude than because they're gonna be able to best design their own schedules. Craig?
Yes, I would like to request out at the high school that the parents do not need to wait in the vehicles. We do a pretty good job of monitoring inflow and outflow. And if it became an issue, we would contact those guardians directly. But prior, when we did the small pods, small groups, we did not require the parents to wait in the vehicle. And it proved effective. We were able to keep that, where there was not students that were kind of waiting. So we can monitor that very closely. And if it's at all possible, I'd like to have it where we do not require parents to wait in the parking lot for our high school secondary kids.
If I may, this is Scotty Appleford. I second what Craig said. We had, during our one-on-one appointments, we did have a few where parents did not return, but for the most part, parents were coming back to pick up their students without fail. So I mentioned in that same model.
One last question, Laura Lee. There's a provision that students with disabilities, foster youth, homeless children, etc., will receive priority access. If those same students don't have transportation by parents or guardians, how are we going to ensure their priority access for these appointments?
Good question.
That's a great question. We're encouraging school sites to work with Missy to get permission to use any vehicles for transporting kids. So we can, we have the vehicles, we have drivers, especially because we're not going to be running buses at this time.
Will parents know that if they don't have transportation, they can call and arrange it?
Greg's saying yes.
Don River doesn't.
I mean, if that's the limitation, so it's really our duty to remove as many barriers as we can. And I think that that's a good thing to promote, Sue, so that we're letting people know. But we also have to make sure that I think the priority is important so that we aren't stressing the system to the point where we can't offer transportation because everybody wants it. Ultimately, when we get back to rolling buses, that's the full access. That's where everybody, everybody.
But I'm just saying, if we can't assure priority access if we aren't providing it to people who don't have it. We're identifying students with disabilities in foster care, homeless, and students without home internet will receive priority access. And then there needs to be provisions for that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that the language for that was intended in terms of for appointments and for getting in, the pods. That is how I was looking at that, but I think that transportation is something like part of the implementation. And then in terms of if there are a limited number of slots or times, that those are the students that teachers will go and schedule.
Okay. Missy has a comment. Okay, Missy.
Hi, thank you guys for allowing me on. Yes, the buses and drivers are ready. If we want to move into models of where we are here to help. We have been anxiously ready here to help service our children when we safely can do that. So we are ready to roll and help service. What we will need is scheduling though. So it would be very important for if we start running buses, we have to have a schedule. And so that would have to be set forth. And that was coming into phase 3. We have drivers ready to go and help with all of that. So we're just waiting safely when it is time for us to go, but we are here and we are ready.
Okay. Now, it's also my understanding that each school site has been in contact with each of their students. And so either by teacher or outreach consultant or whatever. So it's my assumption that we would know which students don't have transportation. Am I correct?
Yeah, those were part of the educational agreement, and we know we don't have 100% of the, agreements back. So if we can start with what we have, and then we can add in. I know Missy has built a capacity for, providing transportation to everyone, and we think it's going to start pretty slowly. We don't think we're going to be running, buses at capacity.
Well, we won't really know until we start and
then we start
feel our way through and find all the bumps that we've put in the road and get rid of the barriers. So, Jacqueline, did you have something you wanted to add?
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Yeah. Okay, I logged out and came back in. I don't know why computers do that. I was just gonna say regarding parents being on campus, initially there was a lot of concern about 2 things. One, parents dropping their kids off and not returning for a long period of time and another kid coming and then them crossing paths. And then the other piece was a lot of teachers were really uncomfortable with having like a student in their room by themselves one-on-one. It's not really appropriate, and so parents were hanging out. When we start the pods though, I think that we're not, that's not a concern anymore. And I would say at this point, parents overwhelmingly want their kids back in school so badly that they will drive their kids to school and they will wait or do whatever they need to do, because that's what it's been like here for us thus far. And out of all of our educational agreements, I think only like 10 kids are planning on utilizing the bus. And I'm sure as time goes on and parents get more and more comfortable and see that things are running smoothly, that will increase. But it's a really low number. Most parents are willing to transport their students at this point. So.
Okay. Any more questions?
Laura Lee, this is Angie, and I just had a recommendation on the verbiage that is in the phase 2, is that where it says 60 minutes, what I would recommend is that we state that the students will meet with their teachers for no more than 2 hours, because at that 2-hour mark is when we have to move into a situation with our cafeteria and providing meals. So I think as long as we have verbiage that states that the learning pods will not meet for longer than 2 hours, it gives the teachers flexibility to meet with the students for at least 2 hours if they choose to.
Okay.
I agree with that. And the other thing is for schools that have low numbers of students, if they could see a pod 2 times a week, this also restricts them because we're saying 2 hours each week. So we might want to say, you know, that's a daily limit. I know Karen's nodding her head. She has some small class sizes where they could see pods several times a week. So this has evolved. So I think 2 hours would be basically the limit daily.
Okay, I need
Are you changing
a parliamentarian. Where are we? With the hybrid learning plan, we're making we're making some adjustments to the verbiage, and then we also are wanting to know whether we're moving into this. So let's take this 2 at a time, 2 different things at a time here. The first one is, do we want to move into the hybrid learning phase 2, and then also maybe make another motion to adjust what's in phase 2? Does that sound appropriate, or do we adjust it first and then go back and vote? I need direction. I need a parliamentarian. Well, we'll just do.
Yeah.
We'll just do. Okay, we're going to vote on moving into phase 2. And so we'll get out here. And I'm supposed to rotate the names here. So I'm going to start with me, Laura Lee George. I vote yes. KTJUSD.
Might be muted.
KTJUSD.
I'm here. Based on the recommendations of our OES and our safety team, I'm going to vote yes.
Okay, Sue.
Yes, and if you could reread the motion, because I think the motion now incorporates the recommendation of the health and safety team, right?
Yes.
Yes.
That's right. I'm supposed to read back the motion. Did anybody write it down?
I have it
verbatim?
written down. I have it
Okay,
written
would
down.
Ed, I
verbatim.
can.
Go
I
ahead,
can make
Carrie.
a motion. Okay, I'd like to make a recommendation to move into phase 2 of the hybrid learning plan when we get the notification from health and safety team that it's a go. And do you want me to put the rest of it in there where we're making changes?
With adjustments to the hybrid learning plan, that would solve one of my problems.
Okay, that it's a go, and also with adjustments to the hybrid learning plan.
Verbiage. Of phase 2. Is that
Yeah.
Okay.
Phase, yeah. The hybrid
Okay, so-
phase 2 learning plan.
Right.
So then my vote is aye.
Okay, I'm seconding that motion that
Okay.
for Carrie.
Okay, so we're going to start over. Laura Lee George, yes. KTJUSD, you just said yes.
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Debbie, Martha.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous that we move into phase 2 of the hybrid learning plan with the adjustments on the verbiage on phase 2 when the health and safety committee says it's a go. That's passed. Okay.
Hallelujah.
We'll move on. The
So I'm sorry,
second-
Laura Lee, I just need clarification. So the changes were to the limit, lifting the limits to, or changing the limits to the amount of time and changing the phases, the clerical. in that
well, the no
second-
more, the 60 minutes to no more than 2 hours.
2 hours daily rather than per week.
Right.
Per week?
If you
I
keep
thought it
them
was
for
per
2 hours,
week.
You have to feed them. You can only keep them from 1 hour.
Yeah,
and 30
no
minutes.
more than 2 hours is what they're saying.
Okay.
Okay, and then the phases
per
3
week.
and 4. What,
That's
Sue?
per week, not per day.
Daily is when we would, where we're keeping it for 2 hours. That's what I'm saying. If we make it 2 hours daily, we'll allow teachers to schedule pods more than one time each week.
But this original plan said up to 60 minutes each week.
Yes.
We said up to 2 hours each week would allow some flexibility. They could do it in
Yeah.
a day, or they could do it in 2 separate meetings.
So
But
the
we were
2 hour limitation is because after 2 hours, then we trigger the need to provide food service. So
But we
that that's why I wanted to make sure.
Well, we
that-
didn't change it from per week to daily. We changed it to per
I
week.
didn't, okay, I was taking notes on how it was going to be changed. So I heard Angie saying the 2 hours.
Per day, right? Per day. Is it per day?
Okay, let's go back and vote on what, let's make a motion. Let's move to
Not once a week.
what the changes are. So let's go through it. So Jen, could you start? The first change there was changing 60 minutes to no more than 2 hours, and then each week or daily. That's
I think 2 hours weekly is going to be limiting for schools where they can see kids multiple days. So the 2 hours is so that we, so that we continue with our food service normally. And then for, there, for example, at Witchpeck, there might be one pod and that teacher might want to see that pod 3 times a week, but I don't think we require it. I think we lift the limitations.
I think probably the best thing we need to do at this point is stick with the week. And I'm thinking that we really need to go through the hybrid learning plan and update it to what is current now than versus what we did back in January.
So are we,
Because,
yeah, it's old.
The one that we were sent in our packet, I was also noticing that on phase 3, we didn't have the 9th and 10th graders on there. And so I'm thinking we really need to go through and update the hybrid plan, get that, get all these things straight. But in the meantime, each learning pod will meet with a teacher for up to 60 minutes each week. And then we can move into phase 3 after we've done this for a week or 2 or however long it takes to move into phase 3.
So phase 3 does purposely leave out 9th and 10th grade. That was to do half the high school first, and then they would be in that phase 4. I think I have some concerned principals about saying we can only meet with pods once a week. So I see 3 schools that they're concerned with us saying we can.
I don't think I'm not saying that we're telling the teachers you have to meet with kids, every day for this many minutes or hours or whatever. I just feel like it would be nice to leave it a little bit more open. And let me give you an example. So like my kindergarten class, which is just tiny at Trinity Valley this year, and my TK class, they have like 7 kids in their class. They could potentially meet with a pod, they'd probably do about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, depending. And they'd probably want to meet with that same pod a couple times during the week. I know they'll want to if they have the opportunity. Not that they're going to be required to. I'm not going to require that. I don't see us requiring that. I think the requirement would probably be like, as long as you're trying to meet with each kid once a week, you know, just like in the individual one-on-one meetings, only in a pod. But I think it would be nice to give some wiggle room. I feel like that might be pretty stifling for the teachers, actually.
Can we say a minimum of 2 hours, and that leaves it open for someone who wants to do more?
Well, if we go over the 2 hours per day, then we kick in the cafeteria issue. This sentence, somebody needs to wordsmith this sentence here. That's the one that's hanging us up. Each learning pod, how about may meet with a teacher? We've got will now. It doesn't say shall, but it does say will meet with a teacher for up to 60 minutes or no more than 2 hours.
Each week. No more than 2 hours each week.
That's what
Right?
That's what it's currently saying. Yeah.
That's what Sue was asking to begin with. She was wondering if it was no more than 2 hours each week. And that's what I was thinking. That's what it was.
Okay.
That's what
So
we
one of the
discussed.
things, let's start with this. Let's start with this the way it with a week, and then bring it back to the board with edits of new verbiage or something. We're hung up on this. I'm thinking kids want to go back to school. They're going to want to go up to 2 hours. Maybe we'll meet with a teacher for up to no more than 2 hours, 2 times a week.
I'm not.
Do you think that our administrators could maybe get together and figure out the verbiage that would be, because I'm just thinking, the administration and the teachers are going to know more about what's possible for them while staying within our guidelines, you know, which I know we can't do more than 2 hours in a day because of the lunches.
Right.
But some teachers might want to do their pods, you know, multiple times a week.
Yeah. That's what I'm seeing. The principals are saying, yes, the only limitation is we can't have kids on campus for 3 or 4 hours a day, because then we have to provide meal service, and it's just too much stress on our operations. So if we just had it, you can't have more than 2 hours a day, then I think that then the school sites could schedule as they need.
No, it shouldn't be 2 hours a day. It should be no more than 2 hours each week. That way they can meet an hour on one day and an hour on another.
But that limits them. What about
Sue, you got an idea?
Laura Lee, you have a couple of principals. I don't know if you can see them. They're asking to contribute too.
Okay, but we still.
It further down, it still says they can continue to meet one-on-one. You know, the second to the last bullet says one-on-one student appointments may continue at teacher discretion.
I don't know if that's
see, I think where the problem is that we added phase 1 and bumped the old phase 1 to phase 2. And so now we're dealing with where the pavement, you know, the rubber hits the road.
I think it's also, it was written so long ago that we thought we were going to go to one-on-one phases, and then we would go to these very conservative 60-minute appointments once a week.
This is what it is. And
we've already enlarged.
Let's start here. We don't know how long we're going to be here. Instead of being here all night dealing with the week versus day. Okay, where's our, we do have principals that want to weigh in.
I see, you can't see them, but I guess Karen and then Craig and Scotty.
Okay, Craig and Scotty, Craig.
Aaron.
I just put in the chat, some teachers may want to meet every day with a small group of kids. Each teacher will have the opportunity to meet up to 2 hours a day with the pod. so choosing. I don't know if that, that worked for us before when we had small groups. Some teachers may only meet once a week for an hour, 2 hours. Scheduling with Missy and transportation, they can have the opportunity. Some teachers might want to meet daily with small groups of students. Teacher discretion. That's kind of my thoughts on it. That's kind of how we were temporarily doing it before when we had small groups.
And you wordsmithed it. That makes sense. Can you read it one more time, Craig? Because not everybody can see the chat.
Said each teacher will have the opportunity to meet up to 2 hours a day with a pod in so choosing. And then I'll defer to Scotty because he has his hand up, virtual hand here.
I'm trying to write, okay.
Thanks, Craig. So yeah, the understanding and the plan that we had hoped to move forward with was to allow each teacher to meet with a pod of students for up to 2 hours a day, but give them the discretion so that they could put their pods together based on the needs of the students. And if they have a pod of students that may need some extra instruction, they can go up to 2 hours, but that was the hope, per day, 2 hours, no more than 2 hours per day. And in the course of a week's time, most of our classrooms would be able to, all students would be able to access the campus at least once a week, roughly.
Okay, so that
Maggie offered some simpler wording in the chat section.
could somebody put it up on the board? I don't see it. I'm trying to write down, but I don't see I don't see it in the chat.
You can't see
I'd be happy to read. I'd be happy to read it.
Okay.
Students may have access to in-person instruction in small group pods not to exceed 2 hours of service per day per pod.
Mm-hmm.
Students may have access.
It's good because it's about the kids. It starts with the student needs.
That's
And
it
Loretta,
right
you
there.
can't see that Karen has something.
Students may have access to in-person instruction. Would you like me to read it again?
Yep.
Yes.
Students may have access to in-person instruction in small group pods, not to exceed 2 hours of service per day per pod.
Right. Thank you. Is that principals? Is that
That captures it right
That
there.
jives what we want.
That captures it right there.
Students may have access to in-person instruction in small pods not to exceed 2 hours per day per pod.
Yes.
And that says
I got
may
it.
have, doesn't require teachers to do that every day. I mean, it's may have, not shall have.
Mm-hmm.
Maggie, what did you have?
That was her language that Scotty read to you. That was, yeah.
That was Maggie's?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just added that maybe instead of may, because I do bargaining and may is a tricky word, I just said maybe we'd switch that out to say students will be provided opportunity to access instead of may have. The way I see it is that a teacher might choose to do, a couple of pods in one day, right? And then leave 3 days to concentrate solely on their distance learning packets. And so it gives the flexibility for teachers to serve students, on just a few days of the week and then focus on the distance learning stuff on other days.
The wording on that is students will be provided access to in-person instruction in small pods not to exceed 2 hours per day per pod. Did I capture it? Yes, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now you
Okay.
need to read it all over again. I've written it 4 times. The clerk is getting tired.
Well, we got a whole schedule going. It's supposed to be a shortened meeting.
Okay, the students will have access.
Students will be provided access to in-person instruction in small pods, not to exceed 2 hours per day per pod.
I think it was opportunities for access. Students will be provided opportunities for access. It conveys that there's a choice there.
Okay.
And if you leave out opportunities, it seems like a must.
Okay.
And if transportation is an issue and we're not providing it, then it needs to be clear that there's
Okay,
a partnership in getting the kids there.
I got the verbiage, and Carrie, do you have it?
I do.
Students will be provided the opportunity to
No.
Students will be
Students
provided.
will have, students may have opportunities for access to in-person in small group pods not to exceed, in-person instruction in small groups not to exceed 2 hours per day per pod.
Will be provided opportunities.
Students
Okay,
will
may, will
yes.
be provided.
Opportunity.
That's what I had in the first place, and I had to cross it out 3 times.
Well, we really need a board secretary here on board. So.
Students will be provided opportunity 2 hours per day per pod.
Students will be provided opportunities
for
to access in-person instruction in small pods not to exceed 2 hours per day. I got it, Carrie. I'll send it to you.
Okay. That's actually in that second sentence right after that. It does say all students will have the opportunity to participate in a pod each week. So we kind of already had that covered.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Well, I think that clarifies the first sentence because it says all students will have the opportunity.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. The second sentence says that too.
Can I go home?
After the
No,
second
you're the
interim.
chairman.
Okay, so we are moving into hybrid learning, and our minutes will reflect what we've changed on the hybrid learning plan. We'll just go with it. We meet and not have another bump in the road. We'll deal with it at the next meeting.
And I'll send out a cleaned up version of the plan.
Okay.
And Jen, did you have, sorry, this is Angie, did you have removing the bullet point or the part where we're requiring families to remain on campus? We need to remove that. If families are they can't remain on campus for 2 hours.
It doesn't say they have to. It says may.
Yep, it says parents, guardians. That's the third bullet.
Just put in the word not.
You guys tell me how you want me to put that.
Just put in the word not.
Just cross it out. And that's why I'm thinking we did not go back over this once we passed it. So we need to go over it. And if there's changes for the next phases, we need to deal with it before we move into it.
Great.
Okay.
So, so Lorley,
yes.
Did we pass this?
Yes.
We passed the moving into the phase 2, but then we got the edits on phase 2 that no, we've not had a motion on that. You want to hurry up and do one so we can
So
move
we need to do it again.
No,
you can make a second motion.
This is going to be the third motion.
No.
I'm usually a patient person.
No, we passed.
Okay, this is going to be the
We've only approved one motion. We voted and everybody, yes, we move into phase 2.
Phase 2.
And now we're saying, well, what's phase 2 mean? And so that's what we're hashing out here, that words for it. It's wordsmithing. So what I am suggesting is somebody hurry up, make a motion that we approve this, or we just assume it and move on. We should move on.
I make the motion
Move
to approve
on.
the changes to the hybrid plan, Mrs. KTJUSD.
As
You know,
I second that motion.
Okay, and it's moved by Caduce, just seconded by Martha, that we approve the changes to the hybrid plan as per our discussion here, and somebody's written it down. Okay. Jen's
Call for the
written it
question.
down, and I've got backup. Okay, Rob.
Yes.
Yes. Debbie. Martha.
Aye.
Lorelei, yes. Carrie.
Yes.
Sue.
Yes.
Kadusha.
Yeah.
Okay. Claire is mud. Let's move on to second interim. The 2021 second interim budget. Education Code Section 42130 et sequitur requires a first period 10 October 31st and a second period January 31st interim financial report. Each district board must certify whether or not the district will be able to meet its financial obligations through the remainder of the fiscal year and 2 subsequent fiscal years. The recommendation is to approve the 2020-2021 second interim budget as positive. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve that second.
Debbie.
interim
Okay, Debbie moved to approve the budget as
And I will second it.
as positive, and Rob seconded it. Discussion.
I have some concerns. One of them is, there's a question here about fiscal distress. Does the district have any reports that indicate fiscal distress? We know that we have a construction project that ran into trouble and that has liabilities coming due unless, based on the last report we got, unless the slim chance of repaying it by some sort of robbing Peter to pay Paul works out. We were told that the chances that it would work out were slim. And we don't really have an alternative plan for covering that debt and finishing that building project if it doesn't work out. And so I don't think we can honestly say there's no financial distress going on here.
To make it positive, the criteria is that we meet our budget, that we meet our reserve, we can pay our bills this year and we meet our reserve 2 years out. We have not crossed that road yet. We may have to bite the bullet at a future first interim, but right now what our budget is saying is that on the third year out, our reserve level will be at 13.91%, and we're required to have a 4%. So those are the criteria that we're for our first interim right now, our second interim. So we can meet our bills and we are paying those off. We are making the payments on them. We're not behind, we're not in arrears, but we have not had the directive that we have to have certain being paid by a specific date yet. It's looming, but we've not been notified of that yet. And we're
Okay.
working
Did we previously report capital project cost overruns? Because on page 20 of this, there's a place where, you know, we haven't reported any construction capital project cost overruns since the first interim report, but I'm wondering if we reported them previously.
Yes, we did.
Okay, and then maybe my final question, on page 22, current year 2020, 2021 annual payment on certificates of participation is shown as 441,119. In January and February warrants, we made two payments totaling 337,668. So is there really only going to be the difference between those two remaining to pay this year, or is the 441 number too low?
Carmi, do you want to address how this is set up for us, please?
Sure. Currently, we've paid $390,568.30 towards our COPs, and our 2016 COP, out of that 390, on our 2016 COP, we've paid $248,937.50. On our 2015 COP, we have paid so in our first payment, there was our interest of $30,525, and there was a principal of $90,000. Out of those, we had a cash on hand, so we had a credit. So we ended up paying $13,149.89 for our interest. And on our principal, we ended up paying $39,449.66. We made another payment for interest of $28,275, and then our last payment of $60,756.25. In addition, I had an email today that stated that BNY Mellon are reconciling our records, and it looks as though we have a credit. Now, how that credit comes about will be my next question to Mr. Swift from BNY Mellon. And also, we pay $3,500 for a trustee fee to BNY Mellon. So currently, we would normally have had $458,493.75 budgeted to pay for our COPs. That's with the interest and the principal on the one COP for the 2015. As it stands, because we had a cash on hand, I'm waiting for that reconciliation. So I kept it at the 441,000. I kept it at that until we get a reconciliation from BNY Mellon. And that request will be going in tomorrow, just to see how soon I can get that. However, our original was 458,493.
And that's for the whole year?
That is for the whole year. So we have interest payments twice a year, February and August, for both COP.
Okay, but this column is asking for the annual payment, including principal and interest.
For the year.
Huh?
For the year.
Yeah, for the year. I just want to be sure this is the right amount for the year, and that we're not going to see more warrants for more of these kinds of payments, because we're almost at that total now.
We've completed our payments for the year. Again, we have one in August and one in February.
Okay.
But we have two COPs.
Okay, so are you talking, those are the payments on both of them?
That includes both of the payments for both COPs.
Okay, thank you.
Our final for the year.
Okay.
And so August will be out of next year's budget.
That is correct.
Okay, also in these, I know these are projections, but it seems like in parts of this report, we say that we're losing enrollments, and then in other parts, we're projecting higher ADA payments. So that's confusing to me.
At this time, we are at a hold harmless in regards to our ADA. We do have to have our projected enrollment. We have to submit that enrollment number at the first week of October for our CalPads. And so we utilize those numbers so that we have a trail to go back on in regards to our enrollment. But because we've been held harmless on our 1920 ADA, we've kept within those numbers. And so that's why there is a little bit of confusion in regards to that.
How long can we be held harmless? Because these projections go out 3 years. It's this year and the next 2 years. How long can we be held harmless and not have to adjust the projections down to our actual enrollment and our actual ADA?
That is determined, that was determined by the state. So I could not tell you how long for this year and next year is the hold harmless. So if
And
our
the year after that, we may not be held harmless.
No, and those projections, Suzanne, will change again. So those 2 years out are simply that projections. The third year out is kind of like a shot over the bow. You know, this is what we think. And they're always being updated as we get new information.
Okay, I'm just wondering if we need to be planning against a drop in enrollment that they hold us to with a corresponding drop in ADA revenues.
For when? Well, no, she said we're hold harmless for this year and next year.
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, and these projections go out a year beyond that.
And you never know what the state's going to do. They may or they may not.
Okay.
Are there any other questions regarding the budget? If not, let's vote. Carrie,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
KTJUSD,
Yeah.
Laura Lee, yes. Rob,
Aye.
Debbie,
Aye.
Martha,
Aye.
second interim is approved. Okay, let's go to resolution 2021-03, local assignment option. Resolution 2021-03, allowing legal provisions authorizing staff to teach local assignments for the 2021 school year. A recommendation is to approve resolution 2021-03, allowing legal provisions authorizing staff to teach local assignments for the 2021 school year. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion. This is KTJUSD.
KTJUSD moves. Is there a second?
This is Debbie, I'll second.
Debbie seconds. Okay. Discussion. Hearing none, let's vote. Rob,
Aye.
Debbie, Martha,
Aye.
Laura Lee, yes. KTJUSD,
Yeah.
Sue,
Aye.
Carrie.
Yes.
Okay, the resolution for 2021-03 local assignment is approved. Resolution number 2021-04, rural school bus pilot plant, a grant. Recommendation is to approve and accept to apply for Part B of the air quality grant. Move to approve. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the resolution for the rural schools bus pilot grant.
Debbie moves. Is there a second?
Martha
I'll
will second that.
Martha seconds. Is there discussion? So the motion is that we approve the acceptance to apply for Part B of the air quality grant. Martha,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
KTJUSD,
Yes, dear.
Laura Lee, yes. Rob,
Yes.
Debbie. Motion is approved unanimously. Board governance handbook sections. These are the sections of the governance handbook that were not discussed at the special meeting in December. Upon approval, these sections will be added to the governance handbook. Do I have a motion?
Oh, I motion to approve.
Martha moves. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Deborah seconds. Discussion.
I have a couple of questions. This is Sue.
Yes.
2.14.5, what does non-routine expense items mean?
Non-routine expense items. Those are things that come maybe like a one-time, it's not in our LCAP, not in our site plans, not in a grant that's spelled out. Carmi, do you want to add to that?
I think you pretty much covered the basis of it. For the most part, everything is probably local grants. I think you've already included that.
Yeah, I did say grants.
Yeah.
That's why the business offices, so they need copies of all the grants, the budgets, everything, so that they can monitor a lot of this expenditures.
Okay, good to know. Should we footnote that and just footnote it as what you just said? I'm just wondering if we need a working definition of that. I'm also wondering why we are asked to approve commercial warrants after they've already been paid. I'm not sure what the purpose of that approval is if they've already been paid.
It's a second check on on our budgets, so that we are in. Part of it is in one of those codes that the board will. All transactions be received will be reviewed. Okay, 2.14.8, all transactions entered into by the superintendent or designee on behalf of the board shall be reviewed by the board every 60 days. That's Education Code 17605.
Okay, so that's a review process. It's not actually an approval
Right.
process. Okay. On section 2.14.7, do we do open POs at some point? As I recall, and probably you recall too, Laura Lee, when we worked at Humboldt State University, once every other year, the state used to go out to bid on things like office supplies. They had whole big lists of things that they were putting out to bid, and then they would pretty much use those vendors for anything they supplied for that year. And that way they didn't have to do POs purchase by purchase by purchase. They had an open PO and a limit, limited by the budget for each campus. And
The only thing I recall, and Carmi can update, is that through the county, we purchased our paper in bulk through the county. I don't know if they're still doing that. Carm, can you address that?
Yes, we do still purchase our paper in bulk, and the county does go out and do the bids. We have we put together an account with Amazon because that had seemed to be the least expensive. We have another system called EdBuy. It's a little bit more of an inconvenience to go in and put together your orders. However, that is also available, but we found that in the past, some of their office supplies were not they just weren't in top shape. We'd get dry pins, and so it became more of a hit and a miss. And so we do have open purchase orders for our utilities. We do open purchase orders based on if there is a vendor that doesn't take purchase orders and an individual may want to make a purchase, they can have an open purchase order up to $300. But we do have a policy in place that has where the items have to be shipped to the school, things of that nature. But as far as going out for bids, I'm not aware of any school districts that actually do that. We do not. So I hope that answers your question.
okay, so how do we ensure fair and open competition among vendors?
Sue,
from
you
time
and
to
I were
time?
supposed to have discussed all of this when our committee, when we went over this, and I didn't hear any questions back from you at that time. I'm really seeing a need for you and I and maybe Carmi and the superintendent to sit down and go over the budget process so that you can get up to speed versus doing it in an open meeting.
Okay, did we have a committee meeting? I know we talked about it, but
Yes, and I emailed it to you. Said this is what I pulled out of all of our board policies. And if you have any questions, give me a call back. And I did not hear any more from you.
Okay.
But I do see the need where we need to get you up to speed so we're not doing our education in open meeting.
Okay.
Do you? All of these things are already in place. They have been in use by the district for quite some time.
Okay.
Any other questions? Let's vote then. Rob?
Aye.
Debbie? Martha?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Kanisha?
Aye.
Kanisha?
Aye.
Laura Lee, aye. Approved. Hoopa Valley High School school-wide learner outcomes 2020-2021 draft. Our school-wide learner outcomes were developed during our 2019-20 and 2020-21 school years. We created criteria with the thoughts of making them meaningful, manageable, and measurable. The recommendation is to approve Hoopa Valley High School's SLO, school-wide learner outcomes. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the Hoopa Valley High School SLOs.
Debbie moves. Is there a second?
This is Carrie.
Martha. Go ahead, Carrie.
I make a motion to second.
You just seconded.
I second.
Okay. Okay, discussion.
question.
Yes.
On page 217, under the sections Hoopa Valley High School 2021, 2022, there's a bullet for senior seminar enrollment and college application support. Do we also provide assistance for scholarship assistance? There's a lot of scholarships available to students, and you know, I'd be happy to do a seminar or whatever with students and or their parents. There's a lot of money available that I think students just don't know about. They're aware of federal and state financial aid, Pell grants and Calais grants. But there's a lot of scholarships that you can apply for through Humboldt Area Foundation and colleges themselves, you know.
Craig, can you address that?
Yes, yes, through our counseling office. Thank you for that. I would say absolutely we can work that into the senior seminar class. I'll connect you with our counseling department, but we do offer scholarships. And I'm sure we're not, help getting the students connected to those scholarships, but there are some out there that we're not aware of. So if you can provide additional support to our site, absolutely. We can work with our counseling department and get that incorporated into our, into our seniors and their planning. We want to always expand on that. So I don't have it specifically written in there, but if there's a way you want me to add that verbiage in here, I can. But otherwise, we want to definitely get, any resources that you can assist us with to get connected through our counseling department and get connected to those seniors, whether it be through senior seminar, then let's
if you
work
want
on
to just consider it included because it's part of that senior seminar, that's fine. I just, I can say that my two grandkids who are graduates of Hoopa High School have been fully funded all the way through college, and they weren't valedictorians, they weren't, necessarily expected to do that well with scholarships, but they're out there, and a lot of it depends on knowing where they are and the story you tell about your life and your future. So I'd just be happy to help.
That would be our counseling department with Sydney. She does an excellent job, but we are always looking to expand for sure. So if there's some assistance that you can provide or some.
Margot, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to also add that the Indian Ed staff funded through the Wild Rivers Grant also focuses a lot on scholarships and helping students apply and writing their personal statements. And so there's multiple avenues of support for students in that regard.
I would say let's connect and let's schedule some of that out going forward so we can get you on campus and assist any supports we can get with our seniors. We can schedule that into their yearly activities.
Okay, great. Is there any other comments?
Yes, that's Carrie Waddy.
Yes, Carrie.
I just want to make a statement. I thought this was great. I really liked it. Thank you.
Very nice.
Okay.
This was a team. This was a community that built these. So thank you all.
Okay. We will vote. KTJUSD.
Yes, I thought it was very nice. Yes.
Lauralee, yes. Rob.
Yes.
Debbie. Martha. Carrie.
Yes.
Sue.
Yes, very nicely presented.
Yes, thank you. Motion approved unanimously. Okay. Item 7G, Orleans Portable Classroom Proposal. Follow up to a previous request for a new portable classroom at Orleans Elementary. The recommendation is to approve to authorize the expenditure of up to $90,000 from the general fund for the Orleans portable classroom. This has been an item that's been ongoing for a couple of years, And my understanding, we've had Orleans community at our meetings numerous times. And there has been pointed out to the board that there is a need for a portable at Orleans right now during regular and well, during the day on a regular school year. The after-school program and the music program all have to use the cafeteria. Now, as we go into COVID safety precautions, et cetera, I see that as an issue. And I don't know with the funding coming down from the feds or the states, I don't know all the funding, but I've asked for staff to check to see if it's possible that we could utilize one of those resources. We don't have an answer yet. However, the need is there, and if the kids are all stuffed into the Orleans cafeteria, I can see where distance, the 6-foot distance and all of that is not going to be possible. So Jen, maybe you or Karen can update us on the need up at Orleans for this portable.
Well, I think you captured all of my thoughts in terms of it just being a real estate, space issue, and they're not being, and the redundancy, and in a normal year, it's inconvenient, ongoing with trying to create space between people. It's a little more serious than just, it's not a nuisance issue anymore. So if there's anything specific, I think Karen would have it, but I know that this is, I've seen this kind of come, and there hasn't been a formalized action requested of the board, and it's been, like you said, brought up a number of times.
It's been brought up a number of times. Karen, do you want to add anything?
I think you captured it well. We've had a 5th teacher the last 2 years because our enrollment went up, and so that teacher has been in the library, so there's overlap there as well. And having a portable on campus will allow us, if the time arises, to keep that 5th teacher or to go back to a 5th teacher if our enrollment goes up. So just having that flexibility there too of another space, so we're not all working on top of each other.
And hopefully the pad that is already there, that we're using a portable during construction, would still be able to be used, but we're not sure. So the budget may be a little high if we don't have to redo the pad and the whatnot. So questions? Discussion.
Well, should we make a move? Sorry. So Laura Lee, shall we make a move to adopt and then have discussion?
We need a motion, yeah. Yes, thank you. You want to move?
I do. I make a motion for the.
I motion.
Go ahead, one of you. I'll second it.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve the portable at Orleans.
So we have Martha and Debbie, you're on second?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Discussion, any more discussion?
I just had a question about, are they able to use the gym for certain classes like music or something to get their 6 feet apart? Does that work? I'm for the portable classroom, but I just wondered if the gym is available, if that's available for a classroom.
Aaron, do you want to answer that?
Yes, what we've been doing on the music days is that then the ACES program gets moved out to the gym, and then they can't eat in the gym, but they have their suppers, and so they eat in the foyer if it's raining, and it's tricky, but
okay.
We have been, the gym is fully in use in a normal year all the time.
Yeah.
Even the closets.
Even the closets. We have offices in the closets now, yes.
Yeah.
That's great. All right.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, then let's vote. Orally, I vote yes. Kadusha,
Yes.
Sue,
Aye.
Carrie. Carrie? Did we lose you, Carrie?
I don't understand how I got muted. I didn't even touch anything. So, and I had a question before we voted. You know, were we getting the money from our CARES funding?
We're checking into it with the auditor. We don't know yet.
Oh. Okay. I guess I vote aye.
Okay, Sue.
Yeah, I already voted aye.
Oh, where did I start?
Oh.
Did everybody vote?
No.
I Ron Kadushka.
I vote aye.
Vote
Okay, Rob votes aye, Debbie votes aye. Did I catch everybody? This is nuts. Okay, did I miss anybody? Okay, motion approved.
All right. Congratulations.
Okay, now information items. We're moving, trying to be a little smarter with our information items. And so our reports, we would like everyone to submit a written report so that we, the board can read it ahead of time. We can ask more intelligent questions, but more importantly for me is I keep them and I can read back to them. I can refer back to them if I need to know something. Also, when we finally get to hire a administrative assistant for our superintendent, who will also be the public information officer. What I have been kicking and pushing to have done is that these reports be turned into news articles that can be put out into the local paper or elsewhere, so that we can keep the community informed as to what is happening in our schools. Right now, it's a big black void. And what information gets out there a lot of time is if someone has a problem, then that goes through the community and that colors all of the good work that is happening at the school. And I recognize that our teachers are doing a wonderful job. They've got many, many wonderful projects and things that they are doing that the community never hears about. So this also are classified. They go out above and beyond, and so do our principals and our administrators. So I'm hoping that by your reports coming in written form, it will help facilitate that so that we can get positive information of what's happening at the school out in the community. Because right now, it's not really happening. And so not everyone is aware of all the good work that is happening. So starting next meeting, I would also like all these reports from all groups to be written out so that we can plagiarize half of them and get it out and positive. But also, if you have a oral report, to keep it to 10 minutes or under. So with that, that's where the direction we are moving. So under information, we have employee groups. First up is KTTA, Maggie. Tell us all the positive you're doing.
I'm gonna do my best. Can I get permission to share my screen?
For what reason?
Yeah.
for my oral report.
Was it handed in to us?
I didn't get a chance to type up a report, so I just made like I made a visual report, like a Google Slides
If you can
presentation.
keep it under 10 minutes.
Okay. I shall do my best. Go ahead and sharing, making sure you guys can see it. Get a thumbs up.
It's loading.
Great.
Okay.
All right, well, I wanted to, as you guys did get a little bit of something in your packet, it did show, I'm going to cut off my camera here, so that might save some of the loading time. I asked for teachers to nominate one another for a shout out, and I got a lot of shout outs. You can see the names here. 12 people were nominated, and a lot of the comments were going over and above, supporting their colleagues, always there to provide extra support, going over and above for students and families, and fundraising, lots of fundraising happening for arts integration, model teachers, inspirational leadership rock stars. So I just wanted to kind of start off with a positive that are, and it's also kind of emulating a little bit of PBIS there by giving each other some shout outs.
You could just like stand.
So the next thing I wanted to talk about with you guys was just a little bit of in-person MOU bargaining, just the updates. We're just down to 2 final sections. And as you guys heard some of the teachers comment in their non-agendized items, that we're really hoping to get some support and to move forward with closing the MOU. We're stuck on ingress and egress. Our members really want to minimize their exposure, keep that cohort contact just to the cohort, students that they're assigned to their cohort, and then also being able to continue to provide distance learning instruction for only 10 hours a week, you know, and be able to be off campus just as we are doing it now. Go on to the next slide. CBA bargaining update. Several members wrote letters of concern to the board when the district sunshine proposal was on the agenda for approval at the beginning of the year, as many of the items listed had potential impacts to working conditions and compensation. The board made assurances at that time that it was not the intention of the district to be bargaining to increase duties and time for less pay. In the sections of the CBA where duties and compensation are concerned, our experience is that the district is in fact attempting to change language to increase duties and reduce compensation. So just letting you know that. We've had the opportunity to participate in some LCAP consultation, and what we provided to the district is listed here, looking at old goals. The items that are listed underneath those old goals, so I'm going to go back, where it says life skills, including, those are the priorities that the district provided for us, where we were supposed to identify, like, you know, which ones do you want us to focus on? And so we looked at these and we came up with a modified goal that's similar to the original goals, really highlighting the initiatives of the district right now. So the first modified goal could state services will be provided through a multi-tiered system of support and prioritize universal design for learning to support the diversity of learners, to prepare all students for civic engagement, post-secondary education, and careers. And in this section, under the priorities provided by the district, we highlighted core academic instruction and really kind of bolded ELA, because we know that ELA, there should be an adoption coming soon, and that would be naturally a priority to focus on. The modified goal under number 2 would say student and staff wellness will be a priority in all environments, and emphasize a welcoming, culturally responsive, socially, emotionally, and physically safe environment. And the goal that or the priority that we highlighted that we felt like fit that goal was trauma-informed practices. And then we kind of extended that to include like common language through PBIS, as well as our social emotional learning language through programs such as Second Step and Focus 5, and to build relationships to understand student needs.
Let me ask you a question here.
Okay.
Now, this is all from LCAP?
So we've been able to participate in a consultation as a KTTA. And so we were asked to prioritize like a list of things that seemed great, but we didn't get a chance to contribute to what that list was. I think that there's a separate LCAP committee working on like these priorities. And so we just kind of went a step further and said, you know, here's what we think might be a really good way to capture the initiatives of the district through modified goals.
Now, again,
so these are just suggestions.
Again, if this were given to us in written form, we would have time to digest it. You're going through a lot of things here, and they're good, they're great, but I'm thinking they should be directed to the LCAP versus before they come to the board. So.
Okay, yeah, and this is just an update on what we've been working on. So it's, and I can definitely, we have given this to the district. When we met with Jen, we gave her this. So I'm just giving you an update on our consultation. Goal 3 could be modified to say the community will have access to site-based and district announcements, which is consistent with what you were just saying, Laura Lee. Events and support in order to actively participate in decisions and programs to support student learning outcomes and goals. And here we highlighted build family community input infrastructure, which was not, I don't think, on the list originally, but we feel like that because there has been, like you said, an information void, we really have to focus on prioritizing building that trust. You know, how do we establish a trusting relationship with our community and families? The last modified goal that we suggested is all students will have access to curriculum that increases opportunity for cultural connections, arts integration, STEAM, as well as other programs and activities based on student interest surveys. And so we added a couple of priorities in this one too with regard to, or maybe cultural connections, representation and language instruction might have been there. And then we really see that the performing arts and visual and media, like these aren't separate programs. These are definitely like arts integration is an evidence-based strategy to increase engagement, increase attendance, and decrease behavior problems. So we really think that arts integration is a huge component of success for Native students, especially because there's a lot of evidence around that art for Native students is really key in their instruction and their education.
I'm glad you added music because that's a big one too.
Yes, yes, yes. So just continuing on with I think this is the last page. We do have some concerns with regard to healthcare changes. As you know, JPA is going towards a tiered plan. We only have one more year to participate in composite. And the tiered plan, you know, the rates are kind of all over the place. You know, obviously the more people insured, the higher the rate. And the feedback we're getting from membership is that they're really interested in the district establishing a medical insurance research task force to investigate if there are other companies that could be offering us a better deal, especially if we go to a tiered and then rates continue to increase because they didn't know how much it was going to cost, right? So these are all just projections of cost. I'm glad that it got brought up earlier because we also are interested in what the plans are for learning loss and that we hope to participate in this planning, whether it be summer school, interventions, like redesigning instruction when we're back in person, similar to the kindergarten program that we didn't really get to implement, where kindergarten would be half day and then finish the day in ACES so that those kindergarten teachers could go and do intervention services at the first grade level. So that is a really well-designed program, and we're definitely going to need it when we come back. But there might be opportunities for more programs like that. And then also, we're a little bit concerned that at this point, we don't have a 21-22 school calendar. Now, in the past, we've had certificated staff assigned to a policies and procedures committee, and it was their responsibility to do the calendars, among other things. And since that program wasn't funded this year, we are not seeing the activity that we would have been seeing if it was a certificated member assigned to it. So just a reminder that this is subject to negotiations under Article 5E2. So thank you again. I'd just like to finish with this slide. It says students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I would say that that also goes in alignment with employees, right? We really want to have strong leadership that is demonstrating, you know, a nurturing, caring environment for employees, especially now in this pandemic. We're working hard and would like to see that support. Is there any questions?
I love your slide, but I wish I had it in written form and especially ahead of time to digest and have better questions. So thank you. Maybe you can
I
still
can
get it.
definitely get, yeah, I can get you a written copy of this, and I can get you like the slideshow too, but I don't have a problem cutting and pasting it into a regular document. And I suppose I can email it to Emily and Emily could get it to you guys. Is that the best way?
Either that or our emails are on the website, district website. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now where did my... Okay, next report is from California School Employees Association, CSEA, and did I see Verla? Are you the...
Yes, I am the speaker tonight. Walt had to go home. So ours is, mine's just quick, a little positivity, just a little information. So basically the CSEA Chapter 347 has recently reached a tentative agreement with the Klamath Trinity Joint Unified School District, and it is being submitted to the field office for approval. Once the negotiation team is informed of the field office decision on the tentative agreement, we will then inform the CSEA Chapter 347 members. Also, we have a whole new board. Walt Simpson is the president. Verla Jackson Robbins is the vice president. Billy Sanderson is the treasurer. Gail Stallings is the secretary. Chris Cisneros, the public relation officer, and she is the site rep also for our Captain John. The total of, we have 5 site reps and 3 stewards. So we're in a positive, we're very positive, a very strong committee. We also just recently found out that there's a lot of things that are free that we could watch and learn more, because all of us are pretty much new but Walt. So we really appreciate all the information that we're being given, and I believe that we have a really strong team. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Trustee area reports. Does anyone have any reports?
This is Carrie, and I visited Trinity Valley School and saw their room where any students that became sick could go. It's a new room, and it was decorated nicely, and it's very welcoming. And I got I got a tour of the room. That was nice.
Okay. Any other trustee reports?
Oh, I don't really have a report, but I just should say that I am on campus, and not as a board member, but as a grandparent, fairly often. And, you know, I guess again, I just need to say how much I appreciate the staff at our schools, because they really do work hard. And even with no students there, they're really working hard. So, and I also visited the closet where our sick kids are going to go if they get sick. It was pretty cool.
Okay. Anyone else? KTJUSD? Did you have a report, KTJUSD?
No.
Oh, okay. I know you did some visits. I thought maybe.
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, that was a couple of meetings ago, though. Yeah, I visited Hoopa L, and the principal was very, very welcoming when I got there. The office staff didn't know why I was there, but they walked me through all the protocols. So I thought that was pretty neat, that they were ready to go. I think it looks good.
Good, okay. Anyone else? I just want to give a shout out to all of our teachers and all of our staff, all of the employees at KTJUSD. I know you've been going through a lot of changes. This is a very different year, but I am really appreciating what all you're doing. And I'm hearing kids that are so excited when they get to go see their teacher, go to school. And I know there's a lot of kindergartners that haven't been on the site, and I'm hearing that they're just so tickled, and I'm hearing from parents that they're so excited to go. So I want to give a shout out to all the employees at KTJUSD. Keep up the good work. You're being noticed, even though it's not in the paper up yet. So get my plug in there. So, okay, thank you. Okay, student services report. Craig, you did a wonderful written report. Do you have anything to add to it?
I have nothing further to add. Does the board have any questions?
I do. This is Carrie. I liked your report. I really love the behavioral process flow chart. That's pretty cool. I did have a question though, and that was on. Let's see if I can find what page it was on. It was on not the first page, but the second page where you were listing, and it says Q4, and it says Hoopa L. It says Hoopa L 1 RSP 5 through 8, 21 students. And then it says Hoopa L 1 RSP 4 through 8, 16 students. And then I was like, how can 5 through 8, which is only, how can it have more than 4 through 8? I mean, it didn't make any sense to me.
The correction there would be this. The first row would be the RSP, kindergarten through 4th. There's 21 students. And the second row would be RSP 5 through 8 for 16 students.
Okay,
That's
so
what
it needs to be fixed.
That's what happens when I rush.
Okay.
K through what?
K through 4th grade was
Okay.
21 students. And the second one was the 5 through 8 for 16 students.
Okay, and I had a question. You prefaced those numbers with a statement, please note legal guidelines recommend a cap of special day class at 12 and a cap on resource specialist program at 28 students. And then when I look at these numbers, am I interpreting this correctly as we're over those numbers, or?
No, we're under on all of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
So each classroom should have, if it's an SDC class, it should have 12 or fewer, but well, it actually can have in our district, if it goes beyond 12, we have built into the language of the contract that they get an additional aid. So that's what it is. For SDC classes, if it goes over 12, they just need to have an additional adult aid present.
And so do we have those aides? Because a number of them are over, like we've got TVES 18 students in a.
Right.
Yeah. So do we have the appropriate number of aides to go with
We
these?
do, but those are not hired members of our staff. There's substitutes that fill in. Ideally, we would be able to help them all pass their LP exam so they could be hired by the district. It would look nicer.
I was just wondering, are we understaffed in this area?
Only because we have some requirements that many of the individuals who would like to work for us cannot meet. So we use them as substitutes. We have enough people, they're substitutes. So that's why we have a lot of vacancies, is because when we're counting unfilled positions, it shows up as a vacancy, but we do fill the position with a substitute during the school year.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Very nice report.
Thank you.
Yes, also, the rest of your report was perfect, just so we're saving it for our special ed, special work study. So just so you know, that's what exactly we needed there. So we have that board meeting coming up. Can't remember the date, but anyway, the rest of your report will be there. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, school site reports. Orleans, Karen, you put in a calendar for Orleans. Do you have anything to add?
I can add something for Orleans and Jack Norton, and that is for the students returning. We have, for in-person instruction, we're at about 50%. So 50% of our families have opted to stay on the distance learning model.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, and then I decided to submit our calendars because they show everything that's going on this year, this month.
So at both schools, about 50%?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you. Hoopa Valley L, Scotty. You did put in a wonderful report. Do you have anything to add?
I think Scotty is off the call. And they, yeah, and everybody did get their full written reports in.
Okay. Craig
you.
Cornelison, we do have your report. Do you have anything to add?
I would just say that number 56 has went up 12 since this report was submitted. We've had a dozen more turn in that they want to do in-person learning.
Great.
Plus
that-
12, huh?
And
Okay.
that's all I have. Do you have any questions for me?
I did get a message while we were meeting here regarding sports on the coast, and saying that they're all participating out there, even though I can't remember exactly what it says, but even though they may be on distance learning or whatever with approval by the school board. So I'm wondering if there's something that we're missing here.
We've
correct?
competed. Yes, that's correct. I verified out with my family. I have some nephews that are going to McKinleyville High. So they are, if the board wants to approve the latest round of sports, or based on our hybrid educational model, if we wanted to approve that going forward. But we have done cross country to date. So we have participated in sports countywide. I would defer to the board if we can go under your direction. If you would approve us going forward based on guidelines, we would follow that recommendation. But we have
Not an
participated.
action item tonight, but by us approving that going into phase 2, does that automatically approve sports?
That was where we were at prior, when we started up with cross country. So we have the plan that was submitted by Augie with the small groups. So I mean, we can,
And the board approved the Humboldt Del Norte guidelines. So as you
Yeah.
know, and I think the intention was they have that, they're going to be making updates to it in real time.
Okay, so
And I know that
well, I'm just concerned that as a board here, we're the hang up, and I don't want to be that. So if there's something we should be doing, then, so we're okay with football too?
Yes, and I can confirm that tomorrow, but we've approved the HDN guidelines, so we're following their recommendations and their path forward.
Okay, I just want to make sure
Yeah.
that the board is not the holdup.
Thank you.
Was it my understanding that I was summoned?
What was that?
Oh, that was Scotty.
This
I
is-
just said that you had been off the call, but since you
Oh.
submitted a written report already.
I just got a text. I had some of the board had a question for me, so I popped back on.
Oh, just wondered if you had anything to add to your written report.
Oh, no, ma'am.
Okay,
All right, thank
Okay.
you.
you're welcome. Thank you for your report. Your
No
written
problem.
one. Great. Okay, now where are we at here?
Which peck?
Which pack report? We do have a written report in our packets. Do you have anything to add to that? And I was really impressed with the grant with the Yurok tribe for the partnership grant, Farm to School. So anything to add?
I have nothing, but we are excited about the grant and we're looking forward to hearing back sometime this month as to whether we've received that.
Okay, great. Captain John, there is a report in our packet. I don't know if Erin is with us, if she has anything to add.
Hi.
No?
No, I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Trinity Valley Elementary, there is a report in our packet, and I love the pictures that show your sick room and how you guys are all prepared there with the what do you call those plastic whatever, anyway.
Oh,
You have it?
oh, the partitions. Yeah, it's been a long
Yeah.
night, right, Lauralee?
It has.
Yeah, we're ready. We're ready to rock and roll. I think my school, my students and my teachers will be excited to hear that we're moving closer to phase 2 as we speak. So that's great news. I did want to share that today we held ASB elections. I know it's super late in the year, but a couple months, I think it was like in January, we were like, wait, why can't we do this? We can still do some of these things, even though we're on distance learning. Let's make this work. And so our kids submitted like application, like the whole process, did the applications. They each did a video of themselves. And then on Friday, all the candidates got on and joined the 5th grade Zoom and the 6th grade Zoom classes, and other kids could ask questions. And then it was open to all of those students to vote for 7th and 8th grade candidates. And it went really well. And I'm really excited. The kids were so excited. And so it worked out really neat this year because we had a couple of spots that nobody went for. And so like 8th grade advisor, we had nobody that ran for it, and treasurer. And so ultimately every kid that wanted to run for ASB this year got a position. So that was kind of neat. They're excited. They're going to be working on some videos for like the little kids on how to wash your hands appropriately and, safety measures in arriving to school. So stay tuned. I'm excited about what they want to do. Dina Moles is in charge of that. And Mr. Q also helps her. They make a good team, and last year was pretty wonderful. So I'm expecting just a few short months, but they'll be able to do some things. So yeah. Any questions for me about Trinity Valley?
No, but I would like to see something like that in a report in the future so that we can get the information out and brag on ourselves.
Okay. Sounds
you.
like a good plan. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, the last information item is the performance agreements, the February performance agreements. Anybody? So that's any comments, questions? Okay, if not, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move to adjourn. This is Sue.
Sue, Debbie.
This is Carrie and I move that we adjourn.
I've got about 5 seconds here. Debbie seconded, and I'm not sure who else. Okay, we'll vote. Martha,
Aye.
Debbie, Rob,
Aye.
Laura Lee, yes. KTJUSD,
Yeah.
Sue,
Yes.
Carrie.
Yes.
There she goes.
Okay, we are adjourned, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Long